Pokemon Ninjutsu Master Chapter 1251-1300. Chapter 1251. Ho-a-ho, are you guys going to rush up? Aizen didn't have many mood swings, as if he was not facing an angry crusade against him, but an old friend who wanted to catch up. Don't be too arrogant, Aizen, now that all the 10 blades have been wiped out, you and Jin are the only ones left. Ichigo shouted, and he couldn't wait to rush up. Aizen stared straight at Luoken and Ichigo, and said, but now you have no reason to fight with me, right? What? Luo Chen didn't expect him to do this trick. Luoken thinks that he doesn't care. If Ichigo, this hairy boy, listens to Aizen's nonsense, maybe he will be completely poured into ecstasy soup. After all, this guy Aizen has a thorough research on human hearts. So, the two of you are just two outsiders. What does the survival of the Soul Society have to do with you? Aizen tried to give an example. Orihime should have been rescued too. Luoken, you too, were originally a free body. Ichigo really wanted to support Aizen when he was fighting, and he was lost in his heart. No, what you said is wrong, I have a reason to fight. Luoken grabbed Luoken's Zanpakuto abruptly and shouted, calm down, Ichigo, don't believe his nonsense, that's Aizen, so stay awake. Ichigo's broken heart was rescued by Luoken again on the edge. The two readjusted their postures. Aizen sighed, knowing that this method would not work for the time being. You two, now only you can deal with Aizen, you can't waste your energy in unprovoked battles, so we will create opportunities for you, you must seize the opportunity. Everyone has a tacit understanding to open the way for the two of them. You guys have to be careful. Luo Chen said, we won't be idle either. It's too late to talk about it, and everyone has already gone towards Aizen. Whether it's a masked army person or a person from the Soul Realm, there is only one Aizen, the common enemy. The Black Rope scourges King Ming. Village Zojun used the D solution, intending to give Aizen a blow to the head. Although Dongxian resisted an attack of this size, it was only after the liberation of the sword, and Aizen didn't even use the first solution now, it must be very hard to resist. Too naive. Aizen slashed horizontally, cutting Duke Ming's blade in half with one stroke, and his entire right arm was cut off along the way. Ah! Village Zojun's right arm also suffered heavy damage. Aizen showed no mercy, kicked him away with one kick, and with just one face-to-face, the captain level had already been defeated. But the battle isn't over yet. Ross, Lisa, and Aikawa Rao from the masked army swarmed up. Ross used the long whip to instantly control Aizen's Zanpakuto, the opportunity is here. Aikawa Rao wielded a stick, but Aizen exerted super strength, and even Ross's whip was swung around, completely ignored. Ding! The weapons were intertwined, and Lisa also used the face breaking, but only for a moment. I didn't see how Aizen made a move. All three were injured by the slash and fell to the ground. The battlefield was instantly silent. These were not ordinary gods of death, they were all at the level of captain and vice-captain, but it was a matter of course for Aizen to defeat them. The strength was so powerful that it was as easy as eating and drinking. 473 inches Hihi, you underestimate Captain Aizen too much. Ichimaru Jin appeared on the building behind Luoken and Ichigo, but did not intend to attack. Ichigo was puzzled, and Luoken was also paying attention to the situation on the battlefield, simulating the battle in my mind. So far, it has not exceeded my expectations. If it really starts, the current Aizen won't be mine. Opponent. Ichimaru Jin said with a smile, you guys just think you need to beware of Captain Aizen's Kyoka Suzuki, but it's useless, because Kyoka Suzuki can't be guarded against. No matter what, the final result of the place will only be a hit. I know that, but it doesn't work for me and Ichigo. Luoken countered. So, what about other attacks from Captain Aizen? It's useless, because those attacks are also impossible to prevent, and the result will only be a hit. Ichimaru Jin said calmly. Luo Chen nodded, he had already seen it from the battle situation. Indeed, Aizen's strength is very strong. Even if you don't use his first solution, it will be even more difficult to defeat him. For so many years, he has been hiding his strength. Not good. Luo Chen was shocked. Is it just because you are in this mountain? What are you doing? Have you already been caught in the mirror of the blue dye? This burst of shouting lifted everyone's spirits, and suddenly found that something was wrong, and it was already too late. It all happened so suddenly. Just now, Tushiro used D to thaw a part of Aizen's arm, and Aizen, who could have avoided the attack of the bee, was hit in the heart by the Haji of the bee. It's useless, because my Reiatsu can suppress you, so your attack has been suppressed to the lowest power by me. How about this? Jingle Chunchui suddenly appeared from behind Aizen and stabbed him in the opposite direction. There are shadows on the ice, and I can come and go freely in the shadows. Before Aizen had time to speak, Toshiro had already made a lure, piercing Aizen's heart with one knife. The three of them had already thought that the battle was set, but Luo Chen's roar broke their imaginations. Looking at it again, where was Aizen in front of him? It was young Mori Dao. Aizen's figure appeared on the side and seriously injured everyone. At this time, only Luoken, Ichigo and Yamamoto were left on the battlefield. When did you start using Kyoka Suzuki? Asked Meiko Hirako, who was injured. When did I give you the illusion that you didn't use Jinghua Shuiyu? Aizen replied calmly, all this was taken for granted, and it was all planned by Aizen. Luoken and Ichigo looked around and saw that there was no one around, so they could only go up. Who would have thought that the battle between Aizen and the others could end so quickly, not even Yamamoto. Luoken directly activated the blur. He is not afraid of Aizen now. He just wanted to find a way to liberate the sword from the actual combat, so he just took advantage of this opportunity. Aizen dodged the attacks of the two, and said a little arrogantly, I made both you and the broken face. It stands to reason that you should not rebel against me, the creator, although I don't know who you are Luoken. How can it be faked? Luoken retorted, Aizen, I don't understand you, right? I have nothing to do with you, I just realized it by myself. Ellipsis ellipsis ellipsis. Surprised but surprised, Aizen didn't mess up, he was still playing very stably, except that he was always able to hold Ichigo, kicked out of the fighting range, and Luo Chen also fought fiery. Boom! The two people's spiritual pressure collided, and Aizen's Jinghua Shuiyu had never been seen by Luoken, so Luoken was not worried that Aizen who he attacked was not himself. Luoken, I didn't expect you to hide your strength. Back then, Captain Yamamoto trusted you a lot. I thought you were not good enough. Luo Chenpi smiled but thought to himself, originally, I wasn't very strong, but in the past few months, I have been dazed and blurred. It's hard not to be strong. However, Aizen's speed was obviously better, and Luoken was already in front of him before he could react. Boom! After a fierce confrontation, the two were bounced off and flew out. Both were slightly injured, but it was not a big problem. Luo Chen just used the repression of the spiritual pressure to make up for the speed, but it also consumed a lot of physical strength. Yamamoto stood in front of him and said, Luoken, Aizen is the enemy of the soul realm. No matter what, I will take this breath for the captains, you step back first. XXX. Aizen also took a few steps backwards, because Yamamoto's strength is indeed above Aizen. Even if Aizen uses Kyoka Suzuki, he can't guarantee victory over Yamamoto. After all, the latter is the strongest god of death in thousands of years. Behind him is a pillar of flames that soars into the sky. From this, it can be seen that the strength of Yamamoto's spiritual pressure is definitely not comparable to other gods of death. Even Aizen can't find a way to break the game. This should have been an established fact, but then the wind of things changed. Yamamoto attacked Aizen, but was dodged by Aizen and used the Zanpakuto to pierce Yamamoto's abdomen. Yamamoto also grabbed Aizen's arm. Originally it was a coherent move, but Luo Chen could see that the two had already played a game of life and death in their hearts, and Yamamoto had already broken the game. Although I am also influenced by your Kyoka Suzuki, I can feel that the Reiatsu of your Zanpakuto is indeed yours, and I have grabbed your arm now, you have no chance. Yamamoto's eyes were wide open, and he pulled out the spiritual pressure from his whole body. Suddenly, dozens of flaming pillars appeared around the city, slowly approaching the middle. I said what he was doing there all the time. It turned out that he was laying mines everywhere. He was really good at mines. I'm afraid it would be a lore. Luo Chen laughed, but I won't even have a chance to play, right? Hot hell. Aizen, get burned with this old man. Luokan and Ichigo have already escaped from the hot hell. Looking at this, it should be a lore. Aizen will be defeated, but this is only when Aizen is the only one left. Luokan noticed the abnormality. A spiritual pressure was rapidly approaching Yamamoto, and the spiritual pressure passed through the flame pillar without being hurt. That's Wandawise. The broken face, which had not received much attention, became the key to Aizen's breakout. Wandawise came all the way to Yamamoto. Yamamoto's flame pillar was swallowed up and disappeared. Yamamoto was also knocked flying by Wandawise, and Luo Chen rushed forward, but was blocked by Wandawise, and Ichigo smoothly rushed towards Aizen. We must fight quickly. Wandawise started sword liberation, and his appearance changed completely. His shoulders and legs were swollen, his limbs became slender, and his head was still a little silly as always. That Reiatsu is also at the 10-blade level, but in fact it should be weaker than the 10-blade, because Wandawise has absolutely no such thing as spiritual wisdom. Aizen said while fighting Ichigo, this should be a crushing. Wandawise was the Zanpakuto I specially used to deal with Yamamoto. I made him out of Bengu. He gave up memory, wisdom, emotions have gained the ability to restrain Yamamoto's flow of fire. It's not that he gave it up, it's you who took it away, right? Luo Chen said, you're still here to shamelessly change concepts. I'd better save him from suffering as soon as possible. Wandawise rushed up, but his target was Yamamoto, and Luokan stood in front of him. I won't let you pass. Wandawise became anxious and shouted loudly. His voice was sharp and piercing, causing Luo Chen to get goosebumps all over his body. This was not fear, it's like scratching a blackboard with a fingernail. Stop me. Luo Chen slashed away quickly, but Wandawise couldn't bear to show weakness. The only thing he had was the instinct to fight. In an instant, dozens and hundreds of arms were born from his body. Luokan's arms were grabbed, and then Wandawise began to attack frantically. Hundreds of hands formed afterimages, and the air was expelled, as if a vacuum was formed. Suddenly, the spiritual pressure surged, and Luokan's figure was covered. Wandawise hit the final blow, and the sky was torn apart. Then, he tried to pull away, but was caught by Luo Chen with a backhand. Wow! What, are you cool? Luo Chen said in the smoke. His hands had already turned around and firmly grasped Wandawise's two arms. Just now Luokan got a defense bonus through the system, and Wandawise's attack was like a tickling. Even if he received hundreds of punches, Luokan still didn't change his face, and he didn't even get hurt at all. Aizen was very surprised. Luokan was secretly angry in his heart. My dear, I spent so much money again, let me see how much oil and water you can get back. With a shock of his hands, Wandawise's two arms were broken at the same time. He shouted loudly. Without emotion, he felt instinctive fear and wanted to run away immediately. But Luokan wouldn't give him this chance. If the words of Wandawise are solved at this time, it may also restrict Yamamoto later. With the blessing of defense, Luokan's arms are 10,000 times stronger than steel, and a direct attack is also extremely destructive. He rushed forward and punched wildly according to Wandawise's whole body. It's not rude to come and go, I'll return these to you. In an instant, Wandawise, who had no time to react, was smashed into pieces, and with him at the center, his body exploded and scattered around. But Aizen didn't panic, and said, it's really amazing, Luokan, but don't think you're sure to win, take a good look at the remains of Wandawise. What? Luokan felt that the biggest piece of the whole was clearly a fluctuation of spiritual pressure, and the breath was getting stronger and stronger, and that spiritual pressure was clearly not from Wandawise, but from Yamamoto. Where do you think the flames that were sealed by Wandawise went to? Of course, they were kept intact in his body. In the next second, the flames will erupt. Ellipsis ellipsis ellipsis. Not good. That's all the Reiatsu of the hot hell that Yamamoto used just now. If it is concentrated at one point, the whole city will be blasted to the sky by this heavy bomb, not to mention the gods of death in this city. Everywhere there are deaths who are in a coma because of their injuries, deaths who are running for rescue, deaths who are receiving treatment, and deaths who have lost their vitality. If this goes on, let Wandawise explode, and everyone will be in danger. Luokan is confident that he can survive this explosion, but he can't guarantee the safety of other people's lives, because if there are 1 or 2 people around, he can still use spiritual pressure to protect him, but there is absolutely no guarantee for others. At this moment, from the ruins, Yamamoto rushed out and rushed towards the center of Reiatsu's fluctuation. "Old man, what are you doing?" Luokan doesn't think that the explosion can be blocked by relying on Reiatsu and this body of muscles. Although it is Yamamoto's own attack, this explosion is just a release of energy, an indiscriminate attack. Yamamoto roared, "That's all I can do, I will leave it to you Luokan and Kurosaki Ichigo." Yamamoto rushed up, and at the same instant, an explosion occurred. A pillar of flame was thicker and hotter than any of the previous ones. Luokan felt that the spiritual pressure in it would be seriously injured even at the captain level. The aftermath of the explosion knocked down all the surrounding houses, turning the surrounding into ruins, and there was a pothole nearly 100 meters in diameter in the center. Yamamoto was lying in it. Although he was still conscious, he was no longer able to fight. Aizen withdrew from the center of the explosion. He was closer just now, and Yamamoto also intentionally poured the explosion on him, so Aizen was slightly injured. Luo Chen didn't intend to give Aizen a chance to breathe, so he rushed forward immediately. Aizen waved his knife to resist, and the two couldn't stand still again. "Do you think you can defeat me after I'm injured?" I saw Aizen taking a quick step, moving a few meters away, and not planning to attack again, but Luokan followed in his footsteps. A full-strength slash, although Aizen resisted, but the impact still made him fly upside down 100 meters and smashed all the buildings along the way. The smoke dissipated, and Aizen's left shoulder was injured, which was the scar from the falling dust slash, but there was only a lot of dust in other parts of Aizen's body. He was spiritually pressed for a while, and the whole clothes looked brand new. The attack just now was basically not too big. The actual effect is something that Luo Chen did not expect. "I don't think that you can beat you if you are injured. On the contrary, I think that even if I am injured, you can beat the prosperous you. Keep that in mind." Luo Chen made a weak gesture. The clothes on the left side of Aizen have been broken, and there is blood left on the body. Falling into the dust and looking closely, there is a blue shiny thing in Aizen's body and a root object that extends out like a blood vessel, coiled around his chest. Forward. Bengyu. You don't need to think about it to know that it is Bengyu, but I didn't expect that Aizen had already merged Bengyu with herself. You are already integrated with Bengyu. No, I just subdued it. Do you know what effect it has? Aizen said. His wounds had already recovered, and only the damage to his clothes was recorded with Luo Chen's slash. Super speed regeneration. Ichigo on the side said in surprise, because that is the skill of the broken face, which can regenerate the body at an extremely fast speed. Luokan could see that although it was very similar, it wasn't super speed regeneration, but that Bengyu healed Aizen's injury. When Aizen heard Ichigo's words, she denied it. "I guessed wrong, it's Bengyu. Isn't it normal that Bengyu protects me, the one who protects him? Although it's a rogue, I have to admit that we really don't have a very good way to defeat this guy Aizen." Luo Chen said to Ichigo, "But now we can only rely on us." At this moment, Yin floated up, and Aizen glanced at him and asked, "Yin, what have you been doing? Are you watching a play?" Yin squinted his eyes and smiled. "How is that possible, Captain Aizen? Although I really like watching dramas, isn't this here to help you?" Now a 2-on-2 situation is formed, but the overall situation is still unfriendly to Luokan and Ichigo. After all, Aizen's upper limit is too high. "Let Luokan leave it to me, Captain Aizen. Haven't you always been interested in Ichigo Kurosaki?" Yin said actively. Luokan Zanpakuto pointed at Yin's heart. You're just a fish and water guy, Ichigo. Kill him with 3 strikes, 5 divisions, 2, and then come back and fight Aizen with me. Yihu responded and was about to rush up, but was directly output by Lan Ran, and had to be guarded. Just as Luo Chen wanted to help, Yin had already rushed up, and it was equally impossible to prevent. Can't pull away. I won't let you disturb Captain Aizen, although I don't know very well, but I guess that Kid Ichigo won't be defeated so soon. Why should you worry? Silver's Zanpakuto approached Luokan. Luokan pulled away a distance and suddenly remembered Ichimaru Jin's Zanpakuto ability, and shouted, I'm used to it, but I can't distance myself against you. Ichimaru Jin launched an attack, his knife soared dozens of meters, and stabbed towards Luo Chen. With just one blow, a deep ditch appeared on the ground, tens of meters long. It's really scary, you Zanpakuto. Fortunately, I have heard a little about it. Luo Chen quickly avoided the attack just now, otherwise the strength would have suffered even if the strength of the black rope of the village Zojun. You understand it quite well, but do you know how long my Zanpakuto can stretch? Ichimaru Jin's Zanpakuto shrank back. In normal times, it is only the size of a short sword, and the blade plus the handle is at most 1 meter. It can't be any longer. This is the smallest Zanpakuto among the captains. But Ichimaru Jin's sword is the most not to be underestimated. My sword can extend up to 13 kilometers at the longest. Dissolution, God-killing gun. In an instant, Ichimaru Jin's Zanpakuto shined brilliantly, and the blade pierced through everything, extending to the sky beyond where the blade tip was invisible, and all the buildings it went were cut to pieces. And in the same instant, the knife was already withdrawn. Although Luo Chen could only see a little afterimage, he already knew it in his mind. Why did you tell me the length of your Zanpakuto, and turned my attention to the length? In fact, the key point is not the length, but the length. It's speed, right? Ellipsis. Ichimaru Jin's eyes opened slightly. He was a little shocked. Why Luokan was able to see his secret in just a few seconds, even without actually having hands with him a few times. Look at your expression, although it's not very obvious, but it proves that I guessed right. No, cough. I judged it based on combat experience. Luo Chen waved his knife, suppressing Ichimaru Yin in aura. The corners of Ichimaru Jin's mouth twitched. He clenched the Zanpakuto tightly, his palms sweating a little. How did you see that? But I really underestimated you. The length of the weapon is never the key, it's all at the level of a captain. If you still rely on such simple and crude things to fight, why not go home? In just a moment, I judge that the expansion and contraction speed of this knife has completely crushed the leader's spiritual pressure level. That is to say, you are undoubtedly the leader level in this regard. Ichimaru Yin applauded convincingly. That's right, but do you know that I still didn't use my full strength just now? What? When Luo Chen was astonished, Ichimaru Jin's blade was already like a bloodthirsty old wolf, aiming his fangs and claws at the unprepared hunter, just one blow. Solution. God kills the gun. The back of Luokan's head felt cold for a while, and even his hands and feet were cold. At that moment, he felt that Ichimaru Jin's Reiatsu completely changed when it was time to use his ultimate move, bringing death in peace. Ichimaru Jin's Zanpakuto is an invisible ghost bullet, quiet and lore. Ninetales are stronger than Luo Chen in terms of 5 senses, and its sharp eyes have already seen through the direction of Ichimaru Jin's attack. Heart. Ninetales moved in Luokan's arms, attacked with 2 claws, and resisted against his chest. Those sharp claws were comparable to Zanpakuto, and they were not to be outdone under Ichimaru Jin's stab. Boom. Luokan was not penetrated, but was thrown away by the powerful impact force. Ichimaru Jin took back the Zanpakuto and carefully weighed the feeling just now. That's not the feeling of being stabbed. Luokan turned and landed smoothly in the air. He felt that he had not resisted the attack just now. Kyue, is that you? Thank you, without you, I would have been killed. This was the closest Luokan had been to death. Ninetales nodded in relief, but also looked very tired. After all, it was in the normal form after receiving AD to solve it. It would be good if it was not injured. Waiting for treatment. Although I don't know what method you used to resist my god-killing spear, but that's the time, it won't happen again next time. Ichimaru Yin sat on the ruins and chatted leisurely, he had already feeling like a winner. Luokan laughed angrily. There won't be another time, because you won't have that chance again. Shunpo. Luokan appeared in front of Ichimaru Jin. The two of them staggered with long knives and short knives. Ichimaru Jin's melee ability was slightly worse than Luokan's, so he fell into a disadvantage. But Luokan understands that Ichimaru Jin has a chance of reversing, as long as he can point the tip of the Zanpakuto at himself. It is a lore. In this short distance of less than 1 or 2 meters, Ichimaru Jin's god-killing spear can't even react to me and Kyuubi, so we must plan ahead. Luokan missed Ichimaru Jin's Zanpakuto every time. Aim the tip of the knife at your body. Because Luo Chen's energy was all drawn to the past, Ichimaru Jin quickly achieved a counterattack. His short sword was very fast and flexible. Although his offensive was fast, he couldn't break through Luo Chen's defense. Ding! Fallen dust successfully held Ikimaru Silver's Zanpakuto was picked up, and Ichimaru Jin's body was exposed, and was knocked flying by the dust, and came to Aizen. Silver. Aizen asked. Ichigo was also taken aback by the sudden appearance of Ichimaru Jin, and then Luo Chengen came over. Ichimaru Jin wiped the blood on the corner of his mouth and the scratches on his face, and said, Captain Aizen, I haven't lost yet, but paddling is still suitable for me. Aizen asked Ichimaru Jin to step down. It's okay, leave Luokan and Kurosaki Ichigo to me, and now defeating them is just a matter of gestures. Boom! A figure suddenly descended from the sky, wearing a Death Tyrant outfit, revealing a leader-level Reiatsu. Everyone present was familiar with this person. Ichigo said in surprise, Father. When Kurosaki Isshin appeared, Aizen didn't feel unexpected. It's been a long time, Kurosaki Isshin, your strength doesn't seem to have regressed at all. Ichigo was still in shock. He never knew that his father was the god of death before. Luokan whistled as if nothing had happened. His eyes were erratic. Ichigo saw it and knew that he was the only one who didn't know about it. Ah, this, I, Mr. Urahara, and Yaiki all know. I didn't mean to tell you. Luo Chen said lightly, now is the time to fight. Let's go. The three of them faced Aizen. Although the sky was a fierce man, they were really clueless. After all, they didn't know how strong Aizen's real fighting power was after obtaining the Bengyu. You are all afraid of my Bengyu, aren't you? Aizen showed the Bengyu on his chest. After a while, the Bengyu and Aizen became more and more closely combined. But I don't mind playing more with you guys. Ichigo, do you know why all this is inextricably linked to you? Of course, Luo Chen won't talk about it first, because although you are not in my plan, you are almost always there. Almost sabotaged my plan. Aizen, you're talking too much. Kurosaki interrupted what Aizen was about to say next, and Aizen felt a little unhappy. For a while on the ground, Luokan, Aizen, and Kurosaki Isshin kicked the ground with their feet, and they all flew up, entangled together. Aizen held a knife in his right hand and fought with Luokan, and his left hand grabbed Kurosaki Isshin's arm. In the comparison of strength, the three of them were stuck together, and the battle instantly heated up. Now, the three of them have not started to resolve, and Luo Chen is useless even to blur. It can be said that the three of them are purely competing for spiritual pressure and sword skills. Since I conquered Bengyu, I have felt that it also has a will. Now this power is about to be fully integrated into me. In other words, the longer it takes, the less likely you are to defeat me. Speaking of this, I have to mention, what do you think the power of Bengyu is? Is it the boundary between the void and the god of death? No, it is the ability to occupy the hearts of the people around and turn it into reality. What? Luokan and Kurosaki was surprised, because they had never heard Kazuki Urahara talk about it. Chapter 1252. More correctly, it should be that Bengyu has the ability to guide the things he thinks. That is to say, Whether it is Hirako Mako's virtual army or Kurosaki Ichigo's ability to obtain the God of Death, it is my experiment with Bengyu. Aizen made everything clear. What? It was the first time that Luo Chen heard Aizen say this. He looked at Ichigo. Is it all in your calculations? Aizen waved her hand. How can this be calculated? This is my plan, and it has been planned since Ichigo Kurosaki was born. XXX. Kurosaki gritted his teeth wholeheartedly. He showed an angry expression. Bastard. What did you mean when you said that Bengyu was conscious? Luo Chen stopped Kurosaki Ishin, who was about to rush up, suggesting that now is not the time to fight the most dangerous when the mind is dominated by impulse. Kurosaki Ishin calmed down a little, but he hated Aizen even more in his heart, because Ichigo, who can be said to be one of his most important relatives, was toyed with by others. Now Luokan, strictly speaking, although they are not relatives, but the remaining instincts in the body are also just about to move, and Luokan has actually experienced so many battles with Ichigo, and the friendship is also very deep. It literally means that Bengyu actually has its own consciousness, which no one knew before, but after conquering Bengyu, I understand this fact, so I can have such a high-intensity fusion with Bengyu. At this moment, Aizen's arrow was suddenly pierced by an attack. Aizen staggered and almost lost his footing. Blood was flowing from his shoulders. Aizen looked back, and Luokan also looked behind Aizen. Urahara, you are finally here. Of course. After all, I can't let the Bengyu I created go on like this. Urahara said, and I also heard what you said just now. 22 inches huh? What do you think, Urahara Kazuki? You think that Bengyu's ability is just your wishful thinking, and as the new owner of Bengyu, I have fully understood its capabilities. If that's the case, then we can only defeat you here. Luo Chen, Isshin Kurosaki and Kazuki Urahara surrounded Aizen in the middle and approached slowly. The 61 way of binding, the 6-stick light prison. Go, Urahara Kazuki used the binding way, which was beyond Aizen's expectations, and directly he was tightly bound together with 6 pieces of light, and Aizen couldn't move. Luo Chen seized the opportunity and rushed forward. If it was the usual Aizen, it is estimated that he could dodge the past, but now that he is bound, the 6-stand light prison is considered an upper middle level in the ghost realm of the restraint system. Luo Chen's Zanpakuto slashed to the front door, but he still couldn't move. You can only take this blow head on. Kai, Luokan's Zanpakuto pierced through Aizen's left shoulder, slashed it down, and attacked by Bengyu. Aizen's body was separated by huge knife scars, but the wound recovered quickly. How is this possible? Aizen smiled and said, this is the form that I merged with Bengyu. It will regenerate such a fatal injury in an instant. As for the injury on my shoulder, it was repaired by the way. Aizen, who was still under the control of the 6-stand light prison, burst out with an astonishing spiritual pressure. The 3 of them were suppressed for a while without any precautions, but at best, this was nothing but the leader's top spiritual pressure, and there was no breakthrough yet. Captain's rank. Luokan and the others quickly regrouped. Urahara started to fight, and a few more tyrannical leaders, Aizen-ji, were obedient and unable to move. The 3 surrounded Aizen, controlled by Urahara, supported by Kurosaki wholeheartedly, and attacked by Luokan. They cooperated tacitly. Aizen was caught in the middle and was at a disadvantage. They finally broke through a bondage. But Aizen is not in a hurry, because no matter what scars Kurosaki Isshin and Luokan add to his body, in the next second, Bengyu will repair quickly, which is faster than super speed regeneration. According to this speed, only all the captains of the 13th team of the Guardian of the Soul Society must attack to kill them steadily. While being attacked, Aizen said, you can't defeat me, because none of you understand the power of Bengyu, not even Urahara. The 3 stopped their attack, but Urahara Kazuki was still imposing the restraint, and Kurosaki Isshin's Reiatsu formed a chain and Luokan bound Aizen. Ichigo and Jin were watching the battle. Seeing this, the 2 of them had the same thought in their hearts. Aizen was already an invincible existence. No, my Crescent Moon Sky Chong couldn't inflict fatal injuries on him at all, all the injuries healed quickly, and without a single healing, Bengyu's fusion with him became closer and closer, and he became more and more able to mobilize Bengyu. The power of Jade. Kurosaki is already sweating profusely. He hasn't fought for many years, but this time he really encountered Aizen's tough stubble. Although his strength has not declined, Aizen has improved a lot. Luo Chen nodded. His attack seemed to be like a mud cow rushing into the sea, without any feedback. Aizen's spiritual pressure is already above the 10-blade level, and now it has surpassed the captain's level. The longer it drags on, the more unfavorable it is for us. Urahara Kazuki is the person who knows Bengyu best. He calmly said something that everyone didn't want to hear. Aizen is almost impossible to kill now. Yes, your current battles are all useless. You have no way to defeat me. Luo Chen, you are half right and half wrong. My current strength is indeed beyond the 10 blades, but more accurately, it is stronger than the 10 blades. Boom. Aizen broke free from Urahara's shackles and burst out with a powerful Reiatsu. So now your attack is over. It's far from it. Kurosaki Isshin and Urahara were suppressed, and Luoken was also affected, but because of his Reiatsu level, he was the only one who could move now, and Luoken and Aizen fought together. However, Aizen was quickly knocked away, and Aizen asked, "This is all your strength? Luoken, you disappointed me. The three of you can die. Aizen, your negligence is that you let me come into close contact with you, and at this time, you have already lost." Luo Chen said lightly. When Aizen heard this, he suddenly felt that something was wrong. The spiritual pressure he mobilized did not work, but accumulated in his body and could not be used. What is this? He felt strange. There were 2 more golden rings on his arm, and it was that thing that hindered his use of Reiatsu. Ellipsis. The 2 bracelets glowed with golden light, and Aizen felt a sense of powerlessness in his heart. His spiritual pressure could not be mobilized at all. Every time he wanted to use the 2 golden bracelets, the 2 golden bracelets shone brightly and stopped him. Actions. Looking at Aizen's surprised look, Luoken smiled and said, "This kind of seal is the channel that can be used to mobilize spiritual power on the hands of the god of death. This is all thanks to Mr. Urahara, who you have always feared. This is a seal I made especially for you, Aizen. Do you think I've been doing nothing for so many years and just being an ordinary grocery store owner in this world, although I am indeed an ordinary grocery store owner?" Urahara opened the fan. Aizen looked at the bracelet and then at Urahara. His face was calm, and he said unhurriedly, "Urahara, you and I are the 2 most intelligent people in the soul world. I have always been very jealous of you, because you can beat me in the battle of wits." "Aren't you saying your last words?" Luo Chen said, but Urahara was silent and stared at Aizen closely. As long as Aizen was not completely defeated, he would not be relieved. At this time, the 2 rings on Aizen's wrist tightly bound his spiritual power in his body, and he couldn't let it out. Aizen's spiritual pressure at this time was also rapidly attenuating. But the spiritual pressure he mobilized just now has no self-awareness. After Aizen stopped, the spiritual pressure accumulated more and more. There was only one result of this, that is, the spiritual pressure went berserk. Aizen's body exploded. Because Aizen's Reiatsu has disappeared, and you can't feel anything in the smoke, it's only possible that Aizen's existence no longer exists in the world. But then, the expressions of everyone changed, because the spiritual pressure that was still disappearing just now not only did not decay, but also rose up a lot, and it continued to increase. Not good. Dodge. Luo Chen first sensed the Reiatsu of Aizen's attack, pushed Urahara and Kurosaki Isshin away with one palm, and then took a slash with Zanpakuto. The smoke was torn apart by the slashing blow, and the spiritual force was crushed out. Ichigo and Yin also felt the pressure in the distance. Luoken stood on the spot and confronted Aizen. "Are you still Aizen?" It's no wonder Luoken asked, because Aizen's whole person's Reiatsu has almost no breath of death. The smoke dissipated, and Aizen showed her figure. Urahara took a deep breath. The shape was so amazing that everyone present blinked hard. I saw that Aizen's entire body was covered with a milky white coat or robe, which was formed by Reiatsu. The strangest thing is that his facial features seemed to disappear completely, leaving only the outline of a pair of eyes and a nose, as if his entire body was covered with a film. His whole body was white, and he didn't look like a living creature. He only held a zanpakuto in his right hand, and Luo Chen frowned. Now he sensed that Aizen's Reiki has far surpassed the level of a captain. Oh, this form is a bit interesting. I have already started a more harmonious fusion with Bengyu. This stage should be the stage of pupation. Aizen observed her body with interest. Then, like playing with a toy, he ripped off the seal on his arm casually, crushed it, and said contemptuously, "Is that so? It can't be delayed any longer." Seeing Aizen like this was the only thing that came to Luoken's mind. Urahara Kazuki and Kurosaki knew that they couldn't fight at all in such a reiatsu, so they immediately decided to support Luoken. Lock. Kurosaki Yixin bound Aizen's foot with a Reiki chain, and Urahara Kazuki also bound Aizen's arm with a tie. Does not work. It's okay to delay time. Taking advantage of the less than 1 second that Aizen was restrained, Luoken burst out and rushed in front of him at an astonishing speed. Void. Shiji. 9 tails. Zanpakuto turned into black and white, wrapped around Reiatsu, and slashed towards Aizen's chest. Aizen broke free, but it was still not too late. Ding! Aizen's Zanpakuto lightly resisted Luoken's attack full of spiritual pressure. I said it doesn't work. Now I've reached the captain level or above. No number of captains are my opponents. Tailed Beast Jade Slash. Luoken added the attribute of Tail Beast Jade to his Zanpakuto. After all, this is not something in this world, and it may be the key to breaking the game. Sure enough, no matter how powerful Aizen's Reiatsu is, the Tailed Beast Jade can still be torn apart, but Aizen is not a fuel-efficient lamp. Swish. He relied on extremely strong explosive power to escape Luo Chen's slash. In this form, Aizen has already surpassed the captain in terms of speed, strength, and defense. And this has a strange feeling to the onlookers, because Aizen's speed is fast. If everyone plays at 1 speed, he can reach 4 times the speed at most, and this is playing at the same time in one scene. Look at the move. Yi Yi suddenly appeared and descended from the sky. Aizen looked up, and while Aizen's attention was being drawn, Luoken used the slash again. Urahara Kazuki and Kurosaki Isshin also rushed up. Wake up, Hongji. Crescent Moon Sky Rushes. Tailed Beast Jade Slash. Attacking in 4 directions at the same time, Aizen swept his eyes and quickly formulated a strategy, holding Yuichi's fist with one hand and Zanpakuto in the other to block Luoken's attack, and then kicked out with both feet. Kurosaki Isshin and Urahara Kazuki he was beaten back again, and finally a spiritual pressure erupted. Only Luo Chen could stand in the same place and stand in a stalemate with Aizen, and everyone else was swept away. Aizen, it's too strong. Ichigo swallowed, but found that his mouth was already dry because of nervousness. Seeing that everyone present was defeated, he didn't know what to do for a while. Ichimaru Jin said with a smile, "So, Captain Aizen is already invincible. I think even Luoken can't beat him now. Next is the one-on-one between the two of us, Aizen." Luo Chen pointed the Zanpakuto at Aizen. "That's right. Actually, I'm not in a hurry if I go to the Soul realm. After all, I have already fought to this point. I also want to get familiar with this form as soon as possible." Ding! Condition confirmed. New mission confirmed. Stage limited mission is open. New mission obtained. Defeat Aizen. Mission classification. Aizen has a total of 4 forms. The higher the form level, the more points you get after defeating much. The system spoke at this time. Tisk tisk, isn't this tempting me to release water? But it's a bit interesting. I'll let the water go. Luo Chen chuckled inwardly, but isn't this a spoiler? Ellipsis. Chapter 1253. According to the system, the current Aizen should be the second form combined with Bengyu, and if he defeats him at this time, although the points obtained are indeed richer than the ordinary 10 blades, Luoken is still not satisfied. Sometimes you have to force yourself. Luo Chen was confident, if he took out all his trump cards now, he would not be invincible against Aizen. Urahara Kazuki, Kurosaki Isshinto. He was injured by Aizen's kick just now, and fell on the ground. Yoichi was only slightly injured due to the auxiliary device specially made by Urahara Kazuki, but he was unable to participate in the battle for the time being, and Ichigo was entangled in silver. Unable to escape, only Luo-chen and Aizen were left one-on-one. Luoken, be careful, Yoichi said to himself worriedly. Urahara Kazuki and Kurosaki hurriedly made adjustments, trying to return to the battlefield as quickly as possible. The three of them are all ex-captains. Logically speaking, their strength would not be that bad, but Aizen's form really overwhelmed the captain's level. Looking at the world, it is estimated that only Luo-chen and Yamamoto can compete head-on with Aizen. But now Yamamoto has suffered a serious injury, and everything is on the shoulders of Luo-chen. Luoken, aren't you going to give in? Is there anything in this world that you must protect? Why don't you join us, Tilda? Aizen stretched out his hand and made an invitation. It's arrogant, but the tone is very flat. Luo-chen thought about it, as if he really thought about this issue seriously. Well, let me think about it. Snapped. Luo-chen was hit by a small stone on the head and made a crisp sound. It hurts. Ichigo, what are you doing? Fight with that guy Ichimaru-jin. Luoken, do you still need to think about this kind of thing? Ichigo couldn't wait to rush over. He waved his zanpakuto. Do you want me to help you figure it out? Luoken waved his hand, and Ichigo calmed down. This kind of thing really doesn't need to be considered. Aizen, as long as I join you, as long as this is the case, can you promise to let them go? Well, I can guarantee this. After all, I have no interest in them anymore. Even Kazuki Urahara, his performance in front of my absolute power has disappointed me a bit. But I refuse. What? Aizen didn't think about it, neither did Ichimaru-jin, not even everyone else. Usually, if you ask this question at this time, don't you have to rebel? This is what everyone thinks at the same time. Diaresis Luoken, one of my favorite things is to slap in the face and slap the person who thinks he has the chance to win. Of course Luoken couldn't spare this man who ruined his daily life. I have to say, as expected of you, even if you are as calm as me, as relaxed as me, even in this state, I can't help but want to scold you like an ordinary person's bastard. Aizen's calm voice finally came out. Fluctuation. Taking advantage of the opportunity that Lan Qian's attention was all on Luoken, Kurosaki Isshin and Urahara Kazuki exchanged glances. Liangjisuo. The 91 breaking the way. Shojiao Ocean eliminating cannons. Several beams of light flew out from Urahara. Each beam of light contained very powerful energy, and Aizen was hit head-on. Isn't this robbing people? Luoken groaned, but just now Urahara and Kurosaki Yixin temporarily exhausted all their physical strength. Chapter 1254. Despair really came. Aizen walked out of the smoke as if nothing had happened, and said, it seems that even the number 90 or above breaking the road can't hurt me in the slightest. The official duel between Luoken and Aizen finally begins. Aizen gave up using his abilities at this time, and completely used the power provided by Bengyu, so at this time his movements had no skills at all, and some of them just reached the ultimate speed and power. Luoken's spiritual pressure shot out, and found that the aura of the blue dye god of death had gradually faded, but Lin Yan, who was collapsing jade, was getting stronger and stronger. He is now a humanoid collapsing jade. Ding! The zanpakuto of the two collided and sparked. This was more of a collision of soul power and physical power. In the pure physique contest, the two tacitly did not use Reiatsu to attack. Luoken, you just used the beginning solution and the blurring. You don't know how to use the D-solution until now, right? Aizen bounced off Luoken's knife, always feeling unfulfilled. When Luoken heard this, the attack speed and strength of the zanpakuto in his hand increased again. I'm worried that after using the D-solution, you will be vulnerable. Why do you all like to talk like this? GN Press. The spiritual pressure that Aizen descended on the knife condensed and then slashed out, like a high-pressure water stream, with a very fast speed and a large area. Resist, must have been injured. Have you seen it? My power is just a normal attack, and it has already caught up with the power of the crescent moon. The captain is the top. No, it is beyond the captain. Then take me a knife too. Jucheng controlled his arms that were numb from resisting with force. Tailed beast jade slash. This slash, do you think'll hit the second one? Aizen stood motionless, not even using the Zanpakuto to resist. Captain Aizen, why are you just watching? Ichimaru Jin shouted. Boom. The tailed beast fusion stopped about a meter away in front of Aizen, because there was a protective film in front of Aizen, and the tailed beast fusion was fighting frantically with it. 1,000,000 shields. Aizen explained, this is the defense that I condensed using 1,000,000 layers of spiritual pressure. Not only does each layer have a strong defense, but the defense composed of 1,000,000 layers is even breaking the air is not comparable. Luo Chen cut out several knives again, but you can't use this defense in an instant, after all, it's not a small skill. XXX. Kai. Aizen's million shields began to be penetrated layer by layer, and after the dust accumulated damage, it was being consumed at a very terrifying speed. Although I can't see your expression, I guessed it right. You set this up before the battle. Otherwise, why would you take a half step back in surprise? Aizen looked at her feet immediately, and sure enough, after Luoken pierced through his plan, Aizen instinctively protected himself and took a half step back. You're really beyond my expectations, Luo Chen. Aizen wiped the sweat on her face. It won't work if I continue to spend it like this, I'm going to speed up my plan. Click. The million shields were smashed by the heavy blow of falling dust and turned into spiritual fragments. Ellipsis. Did you charge straight at me? You will regret this behavior. Aizen was not panicked, because his form had changed again. Chapter 1255. Click. The milky white skin on his surface began to peel off, like an eggshell, falling to the ground, revealing his entire face. The third form. Aizen's face was completely exposed, but he did not return to the previous state, but completely transformed. If the previous form was a pupa, then this is the butterfly after the pupa shell has been removed. Aizen's spiritual pressure has also changed. It is a change in quantity, and it is stronger than the previous form in terms of speed, strength, total spiritual pressure, and recovery ability. Aizen's eyes stared straight at Luoken. His eyes had been dyed black, which made Luoken shudder. This is the change that happened to Aizen while Luoken was breaking through 1,000,000 shields. His strength is no longer something that Luoken can resist now. Have you not opened the solution yet, Luoken? Aizen stretched out a hand and stopped Luoken's Zanpakuto. Although I am now in the category of the god of death, I am just a step away, and I can do it. A qualitative change has occurred, and at that time, it is impossible for you to even approach me. Luoken had to admit that Aizen was right. Without opening the dissolution, even Luoken felt a little chest tightness under a spiritual pressure like Aizen. If ordinary people come close to me, even if I don't do anything, their spiritual body strength will die out in the spiritual pressure that I unknowingly emit. Buzz. Aizen can come and go freely in his spiritual pressure, but Luoken is suppressed. Even if Luoken can see his movements clearly, he will not be able to react in time. Boom. Luo Chen was hit by Aizen's palm and flew out. His body slammed into a building in the distance, and then the building collapsed. Aizen looked at her hand suspiciously. Did I use so much strength just now? But forget it, maybe my thinking didn't keep up with the changes in strength. After speaking, he didn't even look directly at Urahara and Kurosaki Isshin, who were still standing up with difficulty, and said, Silver, let's go to Soul Realm, open the passage, don't waste time here. Okay, Captain Aizen. Ichimaru Jin opened Ichigo and came to Aizen's side, then opened the passage. The figures of the two disappeared in this world, and Yi hurriedly ran to find Luo Chen. Luo Chen. Are you all right? Where are you? I'm here. Ninetails blasted away all the surrounding ruins with the tailed beast Jade, and Luo Chen climbed out of the pothole. Is my water level very level, Ninetails? Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot seeking flowers katakana middle dot 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 katakana middle dot. Juwei curled his lips and let out a reluctant cry, as if he was complaining about why he didn't let himself up. Luokan said helplessly, I don't know the strength of Lan Ran very well, of course I don't dare to let you go up rashly, don't worry. I will definitely let you on when it's resolved, make an appointment. After a while, the surviving Urahara Kazuki, Kurosaki Isshin, Kurosaki Ichigo, Yoichi, Luokan, and Kuo gathered and began to discuss countermeasures. 0. Luokan, you didn't use all your strength just now, did you? Urahara opened the folding fan, covered his face, and looked directly at Luokan. My solution is just comprehension. Using it in this place is really going to accidentally injure an allied army. Besides, this is the present world, or it's better to go to the Soul world to fight. Hey, although it's almost certain that you're talking nonsense, but I like to hear this last. Urahara and Kurosaki agreed wholeheartedly. Luokan, Aizen and Ichimaru Jin have already gone to the Soul realm. I'm worried about transferring my friends and family. I need to act as soon as possible. Ichigo was very worried. 100 million. Chapter 1256. Luokan nodded. For the time being, Mr. Isshin, and Ichigo will go to the Soul realm to support Yaiki and Urahara. You two stay for treatment first, and then it's not too late to come over. It is good. Since they split up, Luo Chen immediately took Kurosaki Isshin and Ichigo to the Soul realm, but when he stepped into the Broken Realm, Luo Chen's spiritual pressure glanced and found something unusual. After running for 480 years in the Broken Realm, Luo Chen and Kurosaki Yixin gradually slowed down their pace. The place where Reiatsu went was quiet, but there was something unusual. Normally, the Broken Realm should not be so quiet. Wait a minute, something is wrong. Luokan waved his hand to stop the two of them. He felt it carefully again, confirmed two facts, and waved his hand helplessly. Ichigo said anxiously, Luokan, what's going on? Why didn't you go forward, not to chase Aizen and them? Luokan and Kurosaki exchanged glances with one heart, and Luokan said confidently, I can tell you two things. One is that Aizen is no longer in the Boundary Realm, he should have reached the Soul realm, but Kutu is gone. Is there no Kutu? What's going on? Ichigo couldn't believe it. Isn't Kutu an absolute existence in this boundary, a symbol of the law? Yes, because of the existence of the two things, Jutu and Juliu, Duanji has been a place for exiles since ancient times. As long as you encounter these two things, you will either not be able to survive, and you will be permanently immersed in the turbulent flow and abandon your life. Outside of time, life is better than death. Kurosaki Ichigo explained. But now that there are no Yutu anymore, it's very likely that Aizen was eliminated by unknown means. Luokan added, if this is the case, then Aizen's strength should not be underestimated. How is this possible? Although Ichigo didn't want to believe it, it was a fact. The entire boundary had no aura of restraint, it was extremely strange. Kurosaki Yixin smiled and said, Luokan, you should take a step first. Just as there is no more Yutu, I will keep Ichigo here for special training. Dad, it's obviously a time of 100,000 hurricanes now. Every second slow, Aizen may destroy the Soul world. Ichigo protested. Luokan smiled and said, okay. But, Ichigo, you don't have to worry. The time ratio between the boundary and the outside world is 1:2000, so if you wear it here for 2000 days, it's just a day outside, so let's practice with peace of mind. It is estimated that this is the secret recipe that Mr. Yixin has prepared for you, even my cousin can't steal it. Knowing this, Ichigo relaxed, and the two stayed in Duanji to meditate and cultivate, while Luokan hurried towards Soul realm. Buzz. The Soul world opened a crack, and Luo Chen jumped out of it, and then immediately glanced at everything around him. There was no doubt that this was a real city that had just been transferred from this world. Everyone around is basically asleep, but after so long, people with a slightly higher 4.5 spiritual power are gradually waking up. Asking for flowers la 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 la. Ask for a review. Please reward la 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 la. Ask for collection la 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 la. Chapter 1257. Just a few minutes ago, Aizen and Ichimaru Jin entered the boundary. Unlike Ichimaru Jin, Aizen was walking slowly, not panicking at all. Ichimaru Jin looked around, alerting the appearance of Yutu. He turned around and shouted, "Captain Aizen, let's go, maybe Yutu will come in a while." But Aizen didn't care about it at all. He walked on and on. In the eyes of others, the broken boundary in Aizen's heart directly became a beautiful scenic spot. He could not wait to hide here and stay for a while. "No hurry, I'm still thinking about it." Encountered a sudden arrest. Boom, boom. Sure enough, I hope that what comes. I don't know if Aizen used the power of vagina collapse jade unintentionally at this time, and it began to vibrate continuously from 22 to 22. The vibration became more and more intense, and the point of the vibration was also farther away from the two of them. As they got closer, of course they knew what it was. Kutu is here. Ichimaru Jin felt the shock and panicked. He is only a captain, and Jutu is a normal existence. Even a captain can only avoid things that are hidden. I don't know if Captain Yamamoto can deal with it. Probably not. He wiped his sweat and signaled, "Captain Aizen, it's time to go, or you'll come over." That's the law. Even if you are so powerful now, you won't really want to fight him. Bar. Aizen shook her head and said nothing. Not only did she not follow Ichimaru Jin's instructions to go in the direction of Soul Realm, she turned around without hesitation and walked in the direction of Yutu. Jutu's body is huge, like a giant python, and you can see it from a distance. It carries Juliu and smashes through the boundary, smashing everything it encounters. So far, no one has been able to resist. Captain Aizen. In Ichimaru Jin's questioning eyes, Aizen stood still, standing in front of Kutu, motionless, and at this time, Kutu had already rammed straight in. In the next second, the scene of Aizen being crushed did not appear. On the contrary, his black eyes shone dazzlingly, forming a layer of spiritual pressure on his body, wrapping himself up, and slamming into it with a huge force. Couldn't move forward, but was smashed to pieces. Ichimaru Jin opened his eyes in surprise. He only knew that Aizen was already very powerful, but he didn't expect to be so powerful. There is a limit to being strong. So, the rules are meant to be smashed, because the rules are originally made for weak creatures who can only survive within the rules, and my strength has long been able to break the rules. Aizen looked at his own with great satisfaction. Body. In the broken world without any aggression, it can be described as a stroll in the courtyard, and after a while, the two came to the world of corpses. Stepping out of the broken realm, the city is not in front of you, but the towering building can only be seen from a distance. Aizen asked, "What's going on here? Why is the exit here?" Ichimaru Jin smiled awkwardly and said, "I'm really sorry, Captain Aizen. I made a mistake when I opened the exit due to the influence of Yutu just now, but it's not too far away, let's go over there." After that, Luokan also arrived at the Soul Realm, but he appeared directly in the city. Reiatsu scans the past. The whole city is shrouded in falling dust in his perception. There is no blue dye's breath, and some people with high spiritual power in the city have gradually woken up. Chapter 1258. There is no doubt that Aizen's destination is here. Luokan stepped close to the city. Aizen must come here when he comes to the Soul Realm, because he needs to make Wangji end with this. At this time, there were no pedestrians in the streets and alleys. The sun was shining in the sky, but in broad daylight it was like a dead city, but Luo Chen could feel that a few people who exuded the familiar Reiatsu were spinning around like headless flies. Let me see who they are. Aren't they all old acquaintances? Seeing them, Luokan was a little worried. Shui Sei, Chiwu, Longui, and Guanyin Temple. If you don't know people, although Ichigo may come to the rescue, Luokan will set the first task as defeating Aizen, but she can't turn a blind eye to these familiar companions, Luokan. After all, it is very dangerous here. Aizen is possible at any time come, thus completing the king key. Luokan didn't forget to drop by to visit Ichigo's house. Ichigo's younger brother and sister were sleeping and were safe for the time being, so Luokan breathed a sigh of relief. At this time, Luokan felt that a powerful spiritual pressure had descended on the city, and there was no doubt that it was Aizen. Luokan immediately rushed towards Aizen, and he couldn't let Aizen act beyond his expectations, otherwise the situation would become very uncontrollable. At this time, in the empty street, Long Gui, Chiwu, Shui Sei and others were walking. After the spiritual pressure of Luokan and Aizen scanned, they suddenly felt that they were being watched. A sense of fear. I said, what the hell is going on here, why is there no one? My back is chilling Tilda. Kaiwu said with a trembling voice, it's been through so many streets, and it's still empty. Shut up and walk, the most important thing is to find other companions, and then inform others, this is very strange, don't back down. Although Long Gui was shocked on the surface, he still had no idea in his heart, where are you, Ichigo, Koriji, Luo Chen. The three of them were walking on the street, and at a corner, they met Aizen and Ichimaru Jin. Buzz. A spiritual pressure spread out from Aizen's body, and immediately spread, covering the surrounding several hundred meters. Of course, the three people in the center were the key pressure targets. Oh, are they the companions of Luokan and Kurosaki Ichigo? Aizen approached slowly, and the three of them were suddenly enveloped by terrifying pressure. Their footsteps became heavy, their whole bodies were being squeezed, and they could hardly move. Diaresis Luokan and Ichigo. Who are you? Where are they now? Long Gui felt that something was wrong. Why did the city suddenly become like this? Who were the two men in front of him, and why did he bring up Luokan and Ichigo? These questions lingered in his mind. Aizen didn't answer, just watched, those black eyes almost sucked in their souls. Ichimaru Jin asked aside, Captain Aizen, what are you going to do with them? Shouldn't you be making Wang Jian first? These weak creatures won't take me too much time. As for the purpose, I want to kill them and hang their bodies in the most conspicuous place outside the city. Aizen said these words calmly, but Ichimaru Jin hadn't said anything yet, and Keigo had already screamed out in fear, and even Long Gui's fists couldn't keep him calm. I heard those words. Luokan landed in time. Chapter 1259. Just when Aizen was about to start, Luokan arrived in time. He fell from the sky, blocked Aizen's sight, separated the two people, and pushed Long Gui and the others back. This is not something you can deal with, go. Roar. Juwei jumped out of Luokan's arms and fell to the ground. Because of Luokan's improvement in strength, under the resonance, Juwei's body is also growing. From the size of a fist at the beginning, it is now half a meter tall. More majesty. In the face of Aizen and Yin, the two captain levels, if they fight, Luokan and Ninetails can hold them back, but there is no way to protect the absolute safety of the three of them, so the only way now is to let them escape quickly. Escape and hide outside the battle arena. Luokan, where's Ichigo? Where's Orihime? Long Gui asked. She immediately relaxed when she saw Luokan's arrival, but she was more worried about Ichigo and Orihime. They're all right. You guys get out of here first. Luo Chen's words gave them a reassurance. Since Luo Chen had said so, they were relieved. Although there were a lot of doubts in their hearts, everyone still followed Luo Chen's instructions and immediately moved towards run in the opposite direction. Long Gui kept turning his head. He didn't understand what happened to Luokan, Ichigo, and Orihime, and why they had to fight against such terrifying people. That kind of clothing, I have seen you wearing it by accident, but what secrets are you hiding from me? You didn't tell me when I pressed you last time. Now I understand, you are trying to protect us, but wait. When this matter is over, I must know the ins and outs. Long Gui secretly decided. Luokan watched them go away, turned around and looked at Aizen. Suddenly, Shasha is the breath of a god of death again, but judging from the Reiatsu, he should have been injured. Behind Luokan, it was Matsumoto Ranki, who was injured in the battle before. Aizen, Matsumoto Ranju dragged his injured body and kept walking forward. The most then she stopped on the left side of Luokan. Her right hand was still protecting the abdomen that was injured because of the phlegm tomb, and the expression and sweat beads also proved that she was forcibly supporting Silver. Luokan hurriedly helped Matsumoto Ranju. "Why are you here? Take this potion quickly." Matsumoto Ranju drank the recovery potion and felt much better. She stared at Ichimaru Jin. Ichimaru Jin also looked at him. Ichimaru Jin smiled and said, "Really, isn't this an old acquaintance? Jin, tell me, why did you betray the Soul Society and why did you follow Aizen? You were not like this before." Matsumoto Ranku and Ichimaru Jin have known each other since they were young, and both of them have entered the guardianship. 13 teams. "Ranju, you are really in the way." Ichimaru Jin stood in front of Aizen. "Captain Aizen, can you let me do it?" Aizen raised the knife, pointed at Luokan, and said, "Yin, now you are not necessarily Luokan's opponent. Matsumoto will leave it to you. Luokan is still me." Ichimaru Jin touched Aizen's Zanpakuto with his left hand, grabbed the back of the Zanpakuto and pressed it down slightly. "Captain Aizen, believe in my strength, they'll let it go to me." XXX. Silver. Just when Aizen was thinking, Ichimaru Jin shot. "Ask for evaluation. Ask for collection. Ask for a reward. Ask for flowers." Chapter 1260. A white light flashed. Aizen's chest was pierced, and a big hole appeared, and looking closely, it was Ichimaru Gin's hand. His move, the God of Killing Spear, was unbiased, and the target was Aizen from the very beginning. "Captain Aizen, I've been waiting for this moment for decades. Do you remember what you did in order to collect souls to make Bengyu? Fortunately, Luanju survived. She didn't know I was very clear. This knife is for her revenge." Then Luo Chen quickly took Bengyu out of Aizen's body, and said with a shocked expression in his heart, "This is the end. I didn't make a move, I knew that I would kill Aizen immediately. This time it's a loss." But soon, Luokan found something different. Although Aizen's chest was penetrated and his spiritual pressure was rapidly declining, there was no death. It did exist, and the system did not assign Aizen-related tasks till the delete. "No, Aizen isn't dead yet," Luokan reminded loudly. He released the Reiatsu and prepared. Ichimaru Jin and Matsumoto Ranju were both confused by Luo Chen's reminder. But it turns out that Luokan's judgment was right. Under that kind of injury, no one could have survived, but Aizen did it. His body began to recover at a super speed. Unlike super speed regeneration, Aizen's chest began to recover rapidly, but the hole in the chest did not disappear completely, but formed a hole similar to a broken face, with a cross formed in the middle. The soaring spiritual pressure formed a visible beam of light, and the explosive energy shattered the surrounding buildings, and the dusty spiritual pressure could no longer hold up. Void. Luokan watched the process. He was comprehending, trying to understand how the liberation of the sword after the blur was performed. "Wrong, Luokan, I've surpassed all the gods of death and emptiness now. This is already a higher dimensional existence than the two." Aizen corrected. The light of the Reiatsu dissipated, and Lu Chen took a closer look, and saw that Aizen was still covered with a white robe, but revealed black stripes, and there were 2 pairs of butterfly-like wings on the back, which seemed to be a combination of holiness and evil. The face is not much different from before, but there is a black hole in the center of the forehead. Like the third eye, his spiritual pressure is stronger than before. System, this is the 4th form, right? I can defeat him now, right? Luo Chen asked, thinking in his heart whether he could defeat Aizen by using dissolution and blur at the same time. No, this is the final version of the 3rd form, and the 4th form has not yet been formed. The system replied calmly, which made Luo Chen stunned. Looking at Aizen, who was already floating in front of him, Luo Chen didn't expect that this was not the final form. I guess only the protagonist Ichigo and the full-body old man Yamamoto can beat this kind of strength, right? Yin, you are a step behind. I have fused with Bengyu. Even if there is no Bengyu in my body, I can still use the power of Bengyu, and I can take it back at any time. Aizen's chest glowed, and the Bengyu in Luokan's hand actually returned to Aizen's chest as if it had received a call. Silver, in fact, I already knew your purpose for a long time. I admire your strength and almost let me die, but now it is my complete victory. You can die. Crush the previous form. 100 million. Chapter 1261. Kai. Aizen hit Ichimaru Jin, who was so shocked that he completely gave up his defense. There is no doubt that this attack would be seriously injured even if he defended at the level of a captain, let alone a defenseless attack. Just a moment. Ichimaru Jin's body had a huge tearing wound from the left shoulder to the right abdomen, and even Reiatsu was as weak as paper in the face of Aizen's attack. Ichimaru Jin's body collapsed in 4s and 8s, blood spurted out of his mouth, and his whole body became sluggish. Even Luokan couldn't save him from such an injury, and his life was being lost. Silver. Matsumoto Ranju roared, and hurriedly stepped forward to support Ichimaru Jin and help him block the wound. She understood everything now, but it was too late. It could be seen that Ichimaru Jin's life was not long, and after the blow from Aizen, his life is fading, spiritual pressure has collapsed. Silver, I always thought you were a ruthless person like a snake, but you can be so dedicated. I didn't expect it, but now it's my complete victory. You've already lost. Aizen approached Fallen Dust, while talking. I also want to thank you. If it weren't for you, Yin, I wouldn't be able to complete this transformation so quickly. It was you and Luokan who completed my transformation together. Thank you so much. Aizen's character began become complacent. Then, Aizen's attention was no longer on Ichimaru Jin. He looked straight at Luokan, and he had turned a blind eye to Matsumoto Renki and Ichimaru Jin like weeds on the roadside. Aizen. Luo Chen looked at Ichimaru Jin's death, and it was useless, but he was practicing what he could do. Luokan saw a trace of despair in Ichimaru Jin's eyes, a trace of unwillingness. Ichimaru Jin's gaze stayed on Matsumoto Ranju's face and looked at Luokan again. It was a complicated feeling. Luokan said firmly, Ichimaru Jin, don't worry. I will help you repay this revenge. The new account and the old account are counted together. Hearing this, a big stone fell in Ichimaru Jin's heart. Although decades of calculations have failed, it is not hopeless. He slowly closed his eyes and his breathing became slower. Just when the swords were rattling on the spot, although it was possible to start a fight. Bang! A spiritual pressure rolled over, and the two stopped moving at the same time. At this time, an exit was torn from the space, and the opposite was the broken world. The one who emerged from the broken world was Ichigo. Ichigo's upper body's death tyrant outfit has been shattered. His right hand is holding a pure black Tiansuo Zanyu. His right arm seems to have merged into one, and the other hand is holding Kurosaki Isshin, who has fallen asleep. His hair is already shoulder length. Although it has only been less than an hour in the Soul Realm, Ichigo has been practicing for several months in the Broken Realm. Thank you so much, Dad, you've been helping me defend against the detentions for the past few months. Luokan can safely hand over the rear to Yihu. He said, Ichigo, I'll leave it to you here. Go and rescue those who wake up. The family is all right, don't worry. As for Aizen, I'll leave it to you. Give it to me. Ichigo nodded. He had already sensed the Reiatsu of Kaiwu and Longui's smiles, as well as the Reiatsu of his younger siblings. He could confirm that he was very safe now, and the only threat now was Aizen. Chapter 1262. Aizen, let's go out and fight. I can't let go here. This is not the fake city just now. If it is destroyed, it will not be easy to deal with. Luokan, do you think I'll agree? Although it's the same wherever you are fighting, you won't be my opponent. I have now surpassed the god of death and the virtual, and have become a creature of another dimension, as if the second dimension cannot. It's the same as defeating the three-dimensional. Luokan didn't care what Aizen said at all. Solution. Blurry. Luokan's spiritual pressure skyrocketed, and it overwhelmed Aizen's spiritual pressure in an instant. Aizen was unaware of this, because his perception was completely unable to keep up with this change. As a result, in this moment of Aizen's perception, Luokan's spiritual pressure completely disappeared. 22 Boom. Luo Chen stomped hard, and with the help of the thrust of the spiritual pressure, all the ruins under his feet were bounced off dozens of meters, forming an absolute field where he stood. The strong wind pressure swept all the streets, shuttled through the city, and blew a hurricane. The wind speed was extremely fast, and the force had already thrown a car hundreds of meters away. Fortunately, Ichigo's spiritual pressure blocked it. Things were shaken beyond recognition by the aftermath. Luoken's right hand was as fast and precise as an eagle catching a rabbit, and he caught it according to Aizen's face. The two of them were like meteors rising into the sky, sprinting towards the sky, and in just an instant, they had left the city and flew for a few seconds. Thousands of meters high. Iran suddenly felt a pain, and only then did she realize that her body had already been pushed back several kilometers away, and the two of them smashed heavily into a mountain range. This is a terrain between plains and mountains. Although there are many mountains, the flat ground is also a piece of land. It is a good place to fight against the strength of letting go. Luoken stood still. Aizen was slammed onto the ground. Please recognize the reality. I didn't discuss with you just now, but to inform you, that's all. It doesn't matter whether you want it or not. Aizen covered her aching face and shouted angrily in her heart. This is impossible, why didn't I react? Can he achieve this level with just one blow? It seems that I must have been distracted just now, and then I must concentrate on it. Luoken, I was careless just now, and you won't have such good luck next time. Aizen's right hand has been integrated with the Zanpakuto. He doesn't believe that he can't defeat Luoken in this form. Logically speaking, there is no creature in this world that can compete with him. Luoken waved his hand, indicating Aizen. At this time, the dust has turned on the solution and the blur at the same time, and the two forms are merged together without any sense of disobedience. The face is covered with half a white mask, and the Death Fighter is covered with radiant yellow and milky white. Zanpakuto at the same time with the characteristics of these two forms. As that's so, you have been able to combine dissolution and blurring, but is this the upper limit of your ability? In your eyes, I don't know if my form is the upper limit. This is only the second time I use it. When I defeated Ulquiorra last time, I didn't use all my strength. I don't know much about this form. Boom! Aizen's Zanpakuto and Luoken's Zanpakuto slammed together, and 100 meters high mountain in the distance shattered. Chapter 1263. A high mountain on the side of the two collapsed suddenly due to the impact force. This movement can be clearly seen even in the city, and what followed was a shock wave that was as if the sky was torn apart, not much weaker than the spiritual pressure. Aizen and Luoken are still constantly comparing their blades. Every move is a direct attack that is so ordinary that it cannot be more ordinary, but the spirit pressure that spreads out is an order of magnitude higher than that of the captain. Did you see, Luo Chen? This is my power beyond the god of death and the god of death. Aizen looked at the mountain that was smashed to pieces, confident, even if you completely control the solution and the blur, it is impossible and beyond. You fought an enemy of one dimension. Luo Chen used the Zanpakuto to resist Aizen's attack, and every time the blade tilted slightly, Aizen's sword couldn't slash hard every time, so that the pressure on him was the least. The surrounding mountains for several kilometers were all affected by the aftermath of the two people's battle, and all of them were neatly cut in half. Ho-ho, has my strength increased so much? This is the first time I have reached this form. Although I knew it was strong, I didn't expect it to be so strong. Test your strength a little bit. Luo Chen would not let him be slaughtered. With a hard push on his arm, Aizen's slash was hindered, Luoken's feet sank, and the whole person fell into the ground immediately, but Aizen was also hit by Luoken for more than 100 meters, and was also injured. How is it possible? How can you resist me? My strength has long been. What if I said that these aftermaths were all sent by me? Said the completion jokingly. He pointed to the surrounding potholes and the flat mountain in the distance. It has nothing to do with you. What are you making fun of? Aizen's eyes widened. He looked at his Zanpakuto, felt his Reiatsu, and shouted, "This is impossible." The Bengu on his chest glowed, as if responding to him. Aizen's body was shrouded in light for a while, and disappeared in the next instant. Luokan is not an ordinary person. He radiated the spiritual pressure, which was wrapped in the breath of death and emptiness, which raised the level of spiritual pressure by a level. Within a few kilometers nearby, no matter how fast Aizen was, Luokan could react instantly and fight back. Here, Luo Chen turned his head to look back, and at the same time the Zanpakuto in his hand slashed mercilessly and immediately, behind him, Aizen had indeed appeared silently. Boom! The earth is cracked. Within the scope of the two people's spiritual pressure, not only the mountains, but also the ground beneath their feet was shattered. The place where they fought was formed into a basin due to the suppression of the spiritual pressure. Diaresis, did you actually prevent my attack? Don't look down on people. Although your strength is indeed strong, my strength is indeed higher than yours. You can't see it without money. I can't feel your Reiatsu, you bastard, why are you hiding your Reiatsu? Aizen asked rhetorically. He felt abnormal from the very beginning. There is only one possibility for you to think so, and that is that my spiritual pressure has completely wrapped your spiritual pressure. Just like fish can't see water, people can't see air, you just ignored, and wrapped you all. The Reiatsu of my Reiatsu is just my Reiatsu. Chapter 1264. Luo Chen's words made Lan Ran terrified. He didn't dare to think about it. His spiritual pressure level had already surpassed the captain's level. Wouldn't Luo Chen's level be even higher? He dispelled this thought in his heart. Luokan, don't bluff me. Next, your Zanpakuto, I can cut it off with just one blow, so you can see my strength. Swish. Aizen's Zanpakuto attacked. Luokan not only did not resist, but his right hand drooped down. This was a great opportunity when Aizen was serious. His Zanpakuto changed its trajectory and attacked Luokan's neck. Could it be that he has already realized the difference in strength and gave up resistance? Don't get me wrong. Luo Chen stretched out his left hand and folded. Aizen's Zanpakuto was already firmly grasped, unable to move. At the same time, all the ground hundreds of meters behind Luokan was thrown into the sky by the powerful impact, and the smoke and dust soared up, reaching a height of tens of meters. But in stark contrast, Luokan and the land beneath it are as calm as the water in the deep sea. Even if the sea is turbulent and the waves are roaring, it is still calm, truly, still like still water. How is this possible? How can you take it? If you dodge, it's understandable. After all, you should be able to dodge with the speed of my slash just now. Aizen's face was clearly covered in panicked cold sweat. What are you surprised about? I can stop your knife, is it something that can surprise you so much? Luokan asked. Aizen didn't pay attention, and subconsciously, she had already revealed it. Unusually surprised expression. After hearing this, Aizen quickly drew out his Zanpakuto and stepped back more than 10 steps, trying to distance himself from Luokan. What? Now you want to distance yourself from me? If you don't get close to me, how can you defeat me? Luo Chen automatically controlled the Reiatsu, suppressing it within a range that Aizen could feel. You are afraid did something happen in front of me that I couldn't understand? Aizen's expression changed, and he actually started to hypnotize himself. Ha ha ha, it was just an accident just now. Yes, it's something called a miracle, and she often takes care of the weak. As you think. Then here, I will use ghosts to smash you to ensure that miracles will not happen again. Aizen raised his arm, and the surrounding spirits began to gather towards him. At the same time, his spiritual pressure also began to rise, and the surrounding everything is placed under its terrifying Reiatsu. Aizen began to sing. Each ghost has its own incantation. Although it can be cast instantly, the singing can unleash the full power of this ghost. At the beginning of the singing, 4 thick black walls appeared around Luokan's body, and they were constantly blocking his possible escape routes. Even the sky and the soles of his feet were completely cut off. The 90th of destruction, the black coffin. At the moment when the chant ended, Aizen didn't want to waste time, and waved his arm heavily. Reiatsu resonated. I saw that the black walls were closed and intertwined, and merged into a cuboid, which surrounded the falling dust, and protruded countless sharp blades and spikes on the barrier, and the falling dust trapped in it would not escape. Ask for a review. Please collect it. Ask for flowers. Ask for a reward. Chapter 1265. Luokan was trapped in the Black Coffin by Aizen, and the Black Coffin is a ghost way above number 90. XXX. The destructive power of ghosts above the 90th can be said to be extremely high, and at the same time, the spiritual pressure requirements for the caster are also extremely high, but now Aizen can fully afford it, and use greater power. After all, the Battle of Shinigami is the Battle of Reiatsu after all. Luokan, what a pity, you can be said to be dead when you are in it. This is not an ordinary ghost way. Now, with my spiritual pressure and my complete singing, the power of this ghost way can be raised even higher. An entire order of magnitude. Aizen smiled proudly as she looked at the black coffin towering into the clouds in front of her. There was no Luokan's breath in the entire space. There was no doubt that Luokan must have been swallowed up by the black coffin and did not escape. But he didn't move at all. That's against common sense. Aizen still remembered that during the dozens of seconds from the opening of the black coffin to the closing of the black coffin, Luokan just stood with a knife and didn't move. Sure enough, in the next instant, the entire body of the black coffin was forcibly destroyed by the spiritual pressure, and it was cut in half from the middle, and it was still dissipating. All this was only triggered by a slash from Luo Chen. Is this the ghost way you are using all your strength? It's really weak enough. Luo Chen stood up in the air. The body of the falling black coffin was naturally separated, unable to touch Luo Chen in the slightest. Lan Ran saw that the blade of shadow inside the black coffin the inches broken, as if being suppressed by a giant force. Before the black coffin fell to the ground, it had completely disappeared. Luo Chen reluctantly waved his hand, indicating that Aizen would come next, but Aizen stood there blankly without any movement. The mountain wind was sassy. Luokan stepped up, and the slight movement was detected by Lan Ran. He immediately retreated hundreds of meters, and pulled away from Luokan. Luokan smiled, and a Shunbu immediately made up the distance to come back. Luokan. Before Aizen could recover, Luokan had already brushed past him, and after waving the Zanpakudo 2 or 3 times, he retracted the saber and retreated. Kai. Aizen then stepped back, but after only 1 or 2 steps, she felt a pain in the front of her chest. When she looked down, she realized that she had been injured in front of her chest at some point, and a knife edge extended from the right shoulder to the entire body. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot seeking flowers katakana middle dot 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 katakana middle dot. Aizen's expression twitched. When did he attack? Those 2 swipes were completely unable to hurt my body, which had been strengthened by Bengyu, within my sense of spiritual pressure. A high-dimensional creature that transcends in an all-round way, it is impossible for him to hurt me. He used up all his strength in a flash, and kept away from Luokan as much as possible. Although Bengyu healed Aizen's injuries in an instant, the wounds on Aizen's mind are not so simple to heal, that is his self-esteem. He stood on the top of the peak, and Luokan was in the open area of the plain below. The 2 looked at each other, and the resentment in Aizen's heart was even higher. Why, does it make you feel happy to hurt me? You just stand like that. There, this is a great mockery of me. The more Lan Ran thought about it, the more angry he became. The more he thought about it, Luo Chen pouted. He felt the anger in Lan Ran's spiritual pressure, but he was helpless. What can I do about this? The strength gap is like this, don't you? Incompetent and furious, let's capture it. 100 million. Chapter 1266. Aizen's expression became more and more hideous. The collapse of the jade in his chest was uncertain, the spiritual pressure of his whole body was undulating, and the breath of life was jumping on the edge of death and madness. You won't be alive, are you pissed off? There is no one before and no one who comes after. Luokan thought that if Aizen died of anger, then he must write it down in the history book of Soul Society. Lan Ran's whole body trembled, and suddenly the whole person was shocked. His thoughts fell into a brief coma, and the spiritual pressure was completely contracted into his body, like a candle in the wind. Juwei's avatar appeared on Luokan's shoulder. At this time, its ears stood up and vibrated in all directions. Suddenly, its keen perception detected something abnormal, and with a long whistle, the surrounding atmosphere completely changed. Boom! A spiritual pressure spread from the high platform where Aizen was standing, and Luokan looked straight away, only to see that Aizen's entire face and chest were occupied by Bengyu and began to change. It seems that Bengyu hasn't given up on me yet. With the help of Bengyu's power, I can evolve again. Luokan, you are no longer my opponent. He twisted his body and was suffering the pain of transformation. The entire appearance is changing, from the god of death to more and more like a virtual. The Reiatsu is also rapidly increasing, no doubt, more powerful than the previous form. System, this is the final form, right? Luokan asked. That's right, this is Aizen's final form. If you defeat him, you will get the most points so far. The system replied immediately. I feel like I'm out of my game this time. I didn't expect his evolution to be able to crush me again on the spiritual pressure. Even using the blur and dissolution at the same time is a bit difficult. Luo Chen calculated, he underestimated Aizen. Upper limit of. Just thinking about it, Aizen's final form transformation is complete. Although his entire body shape has not changed much, there is no doubt that it is still a bit more empty than the Shinigami. His right hand has been completely integrated with the Zanpakuto. The whole face has turned black completely, the sharp teeth are exposed, the eyes are hollow, and the third eye on the forehead emits a spiritual pressure, giving people a sense of oppression. There are 3 holes in front of his chest. Bengyu is on the top one, and the butterfly wings behind him have changed more obviously. Each butterfly wing has 1 more eye, and more on each wing ridge in the shape of a skull. Aizen waved the butterfly wings, the skulls on it swayed, and then one of them opened his mouth, forming a ping-pong ball-sized Reiki ball in front of his mouth, similar to Fushin and tailed beast Jade. With the swing, the small ball was ejected, but the target was not Luokan, it was more like a casual throw. Luokan felt the energy contained in the small fluctuation of spiritual pressure. Although the distance was far, Luokan cautiously placed the spiritual pressure. Retract and wrap the whole body to form a defense. The small ball quickly landed on the surface below, and the explosion started in an instant. The soaring beam of light penetrated the sky and the ground, expanding to all directions. Fortunately, Luokan brought Aizen here. If this is used directly in the city, the whole city will not want it. The shock wave and high temperature of the explosion continued to rush forward, annihilating all the substances contained in it, and the dust enveloped the spiritual pressure. The whole person was not a big deal, but it was lifted hundreds of meters away by the spiritual pressure. It is difficult to imagine if it came directly from the center of the explosion. Will be attacked. Chapter 1267. The aftermath of the explosion slowly dissipated, and the scene at the center of the explosion was gradually revealed. The originally flat terrain was completely overturned, and all the land was turned upside down and smashed. There was a huge pit in the middle that was completely invisible. It was extremely deep, straight to the ground. This power, I'm afraid it's not a nuclear bomb. Luo Chen wiped the cold sweat on his face. Even if it was him, if he took a shot in the front, even if he used dissolution and blurring at the same time, it probably wouldn't be too good. Luokan, Aizen's speed, attack, defense, and spiritual pressure have risen by 1 level. Even if Luokan has both activated dissolution and blurring, it is not worth mentioning in his eyes. His wing ridges vibrated, and each skull began to condense that powerful attack, but this time he started aiming straight at Luo Chen. 22 That thing can actually be mass-produced. Isn't this killing me? Luo Chen took 9 tails around Aizen and began to circle in the sky, constantly predicting Aizen's attack trajectory and finding loopholes at the same time. Do you think you can predict my attack? No, I have already predicted your flight path. Aizen threw out several attacks and attacked in the direction of Luokan. At the moment when the attack is about to arrive, Luokan can always dodge with extremely small adjustments. Do you think you predicted my prediction? In fact, I have already predicted your prediction of me. Damn. Aizen's attacks have been dodged time and time again, but if there are too many, there will always be a time to win the lottery. No, because of Luokan's laxity, he was hit by one of them. A small sun erupted in the sky, and the entire soul realm can see this star hanging high, and can feel the huge amount of spiritual pressure. In the distance, Ichigo flew high, and he radiated Reiki, wrapping the entire city under his protection. The Reiki shock wave hit, and the whole city was like a small insect protected by a leaf in a violent storm. Aizen, Luokan, you have to do your best, teach me here. Ichigo looked worriedly at the direction that Luokan and Aizen were fighting. Boom! From the smoke, Luo Chen's figure was bounced out. Just now, if he had completely used the spiritual pressure as a defense, he would have been seriously injured by the powerful attack. Luckily, he didn't lose consciousness. Luokan took the next recovery potion one by one, plus the super speed regeneration skill possessed by Void, and he recovered quickly. But next time maybe not so lucky. Luokan's eyes narrowed slightly, and he planned to fight back. But thank you, Aizen, your form has also made me realize that the liberation of the sword after blurring seems to be stable. At this time, Luokan broke through again under the pressure of battle, and realized the essentials of the liberation of Shu's sword. I don't know how powerful it is, but it's worth a try. But at this time, Aizen didn't plan to give Luokan the slightest chance to fight back. When he saw that the effect of his long-range attack was not obvious, Aizen was a little anxious. He rushed up and planned to kill Luokan directly. It can't be dragged on any longer. If Urahara is an opponent I fear intellectually, I now admit that this Luokan is the one I fear in terms of force. Aizen's legs exerted force, with the push of spiritual pressure, but in an instant, faster than Shunbu, she grabbed the Death Tyrant outfit on Luokan's chest and lifted Luokan up. Chapter 1268. Luokan's face sank, and he took a deep breath. He didn't expect Aizen to be so bold, but in Aizen's view, he gave up resistance. He smiled and said, "Haha, Luokan, I see. Oh, I've evolved again, and this time I'll really send you on the road." His butterfly wings kept surging and expanding, completely wrapping Luokan. His eyes looked at Luokan and his heart was hairless. Then each skull opened its mouth wide open, intending to release the spiritual pressure together and crush the falling dust completely. Boom! The sky-high beam of light once again shone through the entire soul realm, and further down the line, the outburst of spiritual pressure has reached the realm of materialization, forming 4 materialized spiritual pressure rings on the outside of the entire battle space, collectively suppressing the spiritual pressure and detonating it. Dust off. Snapped. Aizen's arm was suddenly grabbed, and then he grabbed his neck again, and Aizen's eyes were wide open. Falling dust. This is impossible. You're thinking, why can I survive such a super standard Reiatsu? Why do I still have the power to resist Tilda? Luo Chen mocked. Buzz. The spiritual pressure of the dust spread out, sweeping all directions. Under the suppression of Luokan's spiritual pressure, Aizen's spiritual pressure began to shrink, and it was detected that the spiritual pressure in all directions began to gradually lose control, be swallowed, diminished, and perished. Of course, the beam of light also disappeared at the same time, and Luo Chen revealed his complete figure, DJGA Sword Liberation. Aizen, now I am also a transdimensional existence. The difference from Aizen is that Luokan has more elements of the god of death than Shu. The yellow-colored Deathlord is decorated with red and white stripes, and the pattern on the Zanpakuto is like 9 dragons coiled. It's really 9 tails. Tail. Luokan's face is also crisscrossed with yellow and black stripes. The lower half of his face is wrapped in a blurred mask and covered by long waist-length hair, but his sharp eyes can be revealed without any defense, staring straight at Lan. Die. The corners of Aizen's mouth twitched. He seemed to recall all the things he had been afraid of. He wanted to break free, but he couldn't. Although Luokan was just pinching his neck with one hand, the entire space was filled with Luokan's spiritual pressure, like air everywhere. How could Aizen escape? Tailed Beast Jade Slash. Aizen was thrown far away. Luokan held the knife in both hands, took a long breath, left the explosive force to his arms, and swung it down heavily. At that moment, the space on both sides of the knife was slightly dislocated in an instant, but in the blink of an eye recombined. With one knife, even the space was split in half with one knife, let alone Aizen's body. The blue die that flew upside down smashed to the ground in the distance, the earth trembled, and the roar continued. But it wasn't over yet. Luo Chen was a little surprised. Under the blow he just hit, Aizen wasn't completely dead yet, and the two halves of the body quickly combined and regenerated. Diaresis, is this a complete regeneration? But that's it, Qian Zhao. Luokan put the knife into the sheath lightly. The blow just now has left a mark of space rupture in your body. At least I won't take it back. If you do, within 1,000 years, the space will reject you, and even if you can regenerate, your strength will be lost. Sure enough, Aizen stood up straight, but there was a very uncoordinated crack in the middle of his body, and his spiritual pressure was also slashed in half by the dust, and he could not be united for 1,000 years. Chapter 1269. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the task, rewarded with 100 million points, and congratulations that the completion of this world task has reached 70%. Luokan looked at the credits that had been credited, and his heart burst into ecstasy. This time, it could be said that he had fought a turnaround. If the expenditure was not too big, it would have been enough for a long time. I like to fight bosses, let me fight some more bosses. Luokan saw the way to make money, but he also knew that there were not so many opportunities. Luokan, how could my complete regeneration lose to you? Aizen struggled to stand firm, but he also felt a sense of disharmony, as if his Reiatsu was not his own. You are stronger, I am stronger than you. Don't overestimate your strength. Luokan knew that Aizen had been severely injured, shook his head, and was not afraid, so he no longer took precautions against Aizen, which was undoubtedly for Aizen. It hurts self-esteem greatly. Aizen refused to admit defeat and focused the Reiatsu on the healing of the body. Isn't it the mark of Reiatsu? You think this can defeat me? Let me wear it away. But it's too late. Although Aizen has merged with Bengyu, Bengyu still has residual consciousness. Now Bengyu is resisting him. Aizen, who has already been severely injured, is now even more on the snow. Add frost, and no longer have the strength to fight. Kai. Several fire tongues drilled out of Aizen's body, and Urahara also floated over at this time. It's really helpful, Luokan. If it wasn't for you this time, the soul world would be over. Urahara, what did you do? Aizen touched his chest. He felt that his Reiatsu was shrinking. Is this a bondage? That's right, this is the binding Dao that I tailor-made for you. You who hold the Bengyu should know better than me. Now, in the current situation where your strength is declining, it begins to not recognize you as a host. This binding Dao will be activated at this time. Urahara held up his hat and covered his face. Luokan said, I can kill him. Why bother to seal it? It's just a broken jade. Let me chop it a few more times and split it in half. Saying that, Luo Chen was about to start. Pu Yuan hurriedly stopped him and shouted, Ouch, Luo Chen, stop chopping. If you chop again, the entire soul world will really be in two halves. What? Luo Chen staggered his gaze, looked behind Aizen, and saw that the entire surface of the soul realm had left an unusually deep knife mark, and a ravine that opened up the mountain and cut off the sea stretched to infinity. The corpse soul world is divided into two halves by this line, which are still connected together. If there is another knife, maybe it will really become two corpse soul worlds. I'm really sorry. Luo Chen scratched his head, and Zhuwei called out in dissatisfaction, feeling that it would not be refreshing enough if he didn't kill Aizen. Urahara said with a smile, however, it's better to leave him alive. What Aizen has done is not enough for him to die once. In the end, he has to be handed over to the Soul Society for trial. It is estimated that he will be sent to hell for a seal. Luokan put the knife into the sheath, and took Nine Tails into the distance. That's it this time, but Aizen, if you come back, I'll accompany you. Luokan, Urahara. Aizen's roar came, but to no avail. he no longer even had the strength to struggle. Chapter 1270. The flames from his chest extended outwards, absorbing his spiritual pressure and turning into several flame spears that penetrated his body, and turned into a seal, tightly binding Aizen. Urahara asked Aizen to bring Aizen back to the spiritual courtyard, while Luokan returned to Yihu and them. Looking at the destroyed city, Luokan was filled with emotion. How can I say this? I also have feelings for this city. I don't know about corpses. The world package does not include compensation. Luokan, I can protect the safety of my family this time, and save so many people. The Soul Society has also made great efforts, but I didn't help much. Ichigo said. Luokan patted him on the shoulder. It's okay, Ichigo, you've worked hard this time. Haven't the past few months of cultivating in the Boundary Realm paid off? Otherwise, how would you protect the same person in battle? Tilda, where's your partner? Luokan, thank you. Thanks for what? But then again, I should have contributed the most, so it's reasonable to ask the Soul Society for some reward. Ichigo was speechless. He originally thought that Luo Chen should have understood something after the battle, but he didn't expect that nothing had changed. In the blink of an eye, it has been a month since the decisive battle with Aizen. Both the Soul and Soul world and the present world slowly returned to normal and started to get on the right track. There was nothing else disturbing this month, except for the occasional apart from the emptiness that will appear, everything is fairly peaceful. XXX. Well, alright, this is the last one, the purification is complete. Luokan punched the last spell into a specific position, and Matsumoto Ranju on the side wiped away his sweat. This is done. It seems that the exchange between this place and the Soul world is still quite high, but the current aftermath work, whether it is the adjustment of the Soul world and the repair here, has come to an end. Matsumoto Ranju sang in one breath. Captain Dongshilang urged me just now, Luokan, I will go to the Soul realm. Luanju and Luokan greeted, and Luokan also returned to the house of Ichigo, who was temporarily living there. In the days that followed, Luokan, Rukia, and Ichigo would still live their normal daily lives, going to school and fighting guilt, which were all commonplace. Hey, what's going on? Why is there a girl suddenly? As soon as Luo Chen came home, he saw Ichigo, Rukia and Soul surrounded by Yigo's bed. There is a girl who is sleeping. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot seeking flowers katakana middle dot 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 katakana middle dot. When they saw Luokan's return, they began to discuss how to deal with this matter. Soul first explained what happened. This is just when Sister Rukia and Ichigo were out on a mission, and when I was idle and wandering the streets, suddenly when I saw a girl lying down in a sack on the street, I brought her back. So, you don't know whether it's the origin or what, so you bring someone home and are misunderstood by others. Ichigo grabbed the soul and asked, and I used my body at that time. Luokan felt a little strange. It's fair to say that things like running away from home, kidnapping, etc., but I can't feel the slightest spiritual pressure on this girl, as if she doesn't exist. This is very unreasonable. It doesn't exist. But isn't she here now? Ichigo asked. Rukia also nodded, although she also felt a strange breath, but she couldn't make a judgment. 100 million. Chapter 1271. Although Luokan wanted to say something, the phone on his waist suddenly received a notification, and he immediately stood up. It's a notification from Soul Society, the captain's meeting. I'll go first. You two will wait and see what happens. Although recently it's peaceful, but it could also be the calm before the storm. Be careful. Yes. Luokan left Ichigo's house and headed towards the Soul realm, but when he passed through the Boundary realm, he felt a trace of abnormality. 487. No, the abnormality in my heart is not the sudden disappearance. This is now a well-known thing in the Soul world. This is a good thing done by Aizen, but this time the abnormality is different. Juwei emerged from Luokan's arms, alerting the surroundings. It has to be said that its perception is much stronger than Luokan's, but no specific abnormality has been found yet. Just like this, one person and one beast came to the Soul realm in doubt. I don't know what this captain's meeting is going to discuss, but I, the acting captain, have to go there. The captain meeting of the Soul Society will be held once in a while, but it has been held frequently recently, and this time, Luo Chen is even required to come. Usually Luo Chen would not care about these things, but this time I just had no time to spare, and with the mysterious girl and the anomaly of boundary, Luo Chen felt that it was necessary to go there once. Squeak! The door of the captain's meeting hall was open. This was the second time Luo Chen had stepped in. At this time, Captain Yamamoto and the 8 captains below had all arrived. Luo Chen and them were all familiar with each other, and their strengths had also gained real strength. Approval. After chatting for a while, although the captains did not get along a bit, they were unexpectedly unanimous and friendly towards Luo Chen. Luoken, was it you who was with Matsumoto Ranju in the end? Yamamoto asked. Yes, is there any problem? What happened to Luanju? Yes, something went wrong. Not long ago, Matsumoto Ranju finally came to the Soul world. She said that she came to Soul world immediately after saying goodbye to you. She thought it would only take 10 minutes at most, but she only arrived today. This proves that time in the boundary may be less stable. That's right. When I came, I also felt the strangeness of breaking the boundary. I guess it has something to do with this matter. Is Luanju okay? Toshiro said. Well, Matsumoto is fine, but she may not be able to accept this reality, but fortunately, she was not taken away by the detention, and abandoned in a timeline thousands of years away. Ni Yuli, have you come up with any clues? Luoken asked. Ni Yuli nodded. I am a super scientist, of course I have researched this strange phenomenon. The conclusion that can be drawn so far is that the boundary has been disturbed. If this continues, it is certain that the corpse will be completely destroyed. The soul world is separated from the present world and cannot be intervened. Are the consequences so serious? Yamamoto frowned and thought, Captain Namori, you will be in charge of the complete investigation of the Broken Realm, as well as Captain Kuchiki Byakuya, Deputy Captain Asane, and Captain Hitsugaya Toshiro. In addition, Captain Zaraki Kenpachi is in charge of strengthening the defense of the Spirit Garden. Yes. Luoken learned some things through this meeting. He felt that if he had free time, he should help appropriately, but for now, he should go back first and talk to Ichigo, Rukia and the others about the specific situation. Chapter 1272. As soon as he returned to the world, Ichigo contacted him. Luoken, is there any movement in the Soul world? I just received the information, and the Technical Research Bureau asked me, the Death God's agent, to assist in the investigation or something. Really, I didn't listen to what Niyuri said, but it just happened that I was also idle, so I'll take you there again, and by the way, I'll tell you what happened recently. Although he has just returned to the world, Luo Chen deeply feels that this time things are not easy, and his heart is full of ups and downs. Luo Chen took Ichigo and Rukia to the Soul Realm again, and in the Broken Realm, that abnormal feeling came to his mind again. Ichigo, Rukia, do you feel anything? There's something strange about breaking the world. Hey, yes, I feel it too. Boom. Suddenly, a violent vibration suddenly occurred in the silent boundary, and there seemed to be a behemoth approaching behind him, and the Reiatsu swept over violently. Isn't it a slap in the face? Ichigo asked. Luoken frowned and said, impossible, Kutu was wiped out by Aizen a month ago, can it be regenerated in such a short period of time? Boom. A bright light flashed, and there really was a rushing rush behind him. The speed was very fast, and in a blink of an eye, it was already close to the three of them. Ah, Luoken, isn't the regeneration cycle of Jutu very long, then what is this? Ichigo shouted as he ran. I don't know either. Run away. What Luo Chen can confirm is that the Kutu behind him is the real thing, and now he can just run away. Since Aizen has the ability to destroy Yutu, Luoken also has it. But Luoken was not a person who would break the rules at will, like Aizen. Let's not interfere too much, is Luokan's current thinking. Luokan, think of a way. We're going to catch up. Ichigo looked behind him and tried his best to sprint the runway. Now that Jutsu was so close, he was about to run over the corners of their clothes. Falling dust recovering from his meditation, he shouted, "Catch it! Shiji, blurry, Shunbu." He picked up Rukia and Luokan with both hands, and the nine tails also hurriedly shrank into his arms. Luokan burst out with spiritual power. The wind was blowing under his feet, his figure was twisted, and the spiritual pressure was assisted. Out! The speed was very fast, and the clothes of the three of them were blown loudly. Under such pressure and sudden tearing, the identity card of the acting captain hanging on Luokan's waist was torn off. In just a split second, the identity card was swallowed by Shuto and disappeared in the long river of time. Luokan couldn't control so much. The most urgent task is to bring Ichigo and Rukia out of the world, and then look for Yamamoto after the agent captain card. I want one. Seeing the bright light from a distance, the soul realm was already in front of me. Luo Chen calmed down, rushed over in one breath, and the kutu behind him was thrown far away. Hey, what about people? Luo Chen's hands were empty, but he knew that the two of them were just thrown away when they rushed out, and they were not lost in the boundary. Just as Luokan was searching in the spiritual courtyard, Kuchiki Byakuya and Hitsugaya Toshiro appeared quietly. Hey, what's wrong with you? Don't move. Put down your weapons. Obediently be arrested. Chapter 1273. Arrest. What are you talking about? Luo Chen asked curiously. He immediately counted in his mind all the things he had done since he became a god of death. None of them would be arrested by the Guardian Team 13. No, did you catch the wrong person? That's right, you are the suspect. Toshiro saw that Luokan didn't mean to surrender, so he rushed up immediately, started the first solution and fought with Luokan, and Byakuya Kuchiki also participated in the battle. Ding, ding. Falling dust was on guard against attacks from two directions, resisting with ease while retreating, not planning to fight the two of them. Because Luokan was at a loss now, looking at the more and more death gods gathered around him, he said helplessly, "Aren't you kidding me? Is today a special day?" Luokan's current strength is above the level of the captain. If you want to break through the siege, it will of course take a few minutes to teach Toshiro and Kuchiki Byakuya a good lesson. Buzz. Luokan waved the Zanpakuto. Toshiro and Kuchiki Byakuya were like enemies, and surrounded Luokan on guard, but then Luokan took back the Zanpakuto. He wanted to see what good drama the two were directing. So what kind of medicine did you buy in the gourd Tilda? Very good, the suspect has given up resistance. Toshiro put restrictions on Luokan's hands and feet. You can withdraw, and he will be escorted by me and Captain Kuchiki. On the way, the two did not say a word, and Luo Chen became more and more confused. It was not until they were sent to the prison that Luo Chen realized that there was absolutely some misunderstanding. Damn it. If I knew earlier, I wouldn't help you with blue dye, and I would be arrested without saying anything. Luo Chen was sulking alone, and the moonlight shone in, only to realize that it had been delayed for a long time. Kyubi climbed onto his shoulders. Luokan and he were already in the same heart now. What, do you feel that those people, especially Toshiro and Kuchiki Byakuya, feel different from the usual ones? Kyubi nodded. It was also very curious. Obviously the Reiatsu, breath and even Zanpakuto were the same. How could there be a strange feeling? And this kind of strangeness was very similar to when the world was broken. By the way, when it comes to breaking the realm, Ichigo and Larukia don't know what's going on. Luo Chen patted his head and suddenly remembered. I can't stay here anymore. I'm going to look for them. I don't know if they have any not being treated as a traitor. Kai. Luokan slashed out with a knife, and the front door was cut off. Luokan didn't make much noise, and he planned to sneak out quietly. At the corner, two figures were sneaking around. After Luo Chen signaled Jue to circle around, the two came to a circle. Diaresis, don't move. Luokan, it's us. Ichigo shouted. His throat was blocked by Luokan's Zanpakuto, and the nine tails also climbed onto Rukia's body, hair standing upright. When Luokan saw the person coming, He put the knife into the sheath, and for a while, the three of them looked at each other, monos. What happened during this period made them a little overwhelmed. Seeing that you were brought over by Toshiro and Kuchiki, we felt very strange and followed. Anyway, let's go out first. Luo Chen felt that there was something strange about this matter, and a dark cloud was surging in his heart. The three of them rushed out of the prison and hid in the shadows. At this time, in the spiritual courtyard, there were death gods patrolling everywhere, and the defense was strengthened to an unprecedented level. Chapter 1274. But after what happened just now, no one can be sure whether this is an enemy or a friend. Luo Chen speculated that the Soul world might have been secretly controlled at some point. Where are you going now? Rukia asked. She was very confused and didn't know why Kuchiki Byakuya became like that. If she went to find him, she might also be arrested. Now it would be a better choice to follow Luokan. Luokan said, anyway, let's leave the spiritual courtyard for now. We can go find Yi or Kong and the others. Just when they were about to act again, Renji and Aikikaku stood in front of them, and they walked over fiercely. Don't hide, I've seen it all. Luokan, Ichigo, Rukia, you all escaped. Luokan knew that there was no need to hide anymore, so he showed his figure, but Jue reminded him, well, I know, this doesn't look like the real thing, it might be a fake. Who controls it? The five people faced each other. Luo Chen didn't know where the courage of the two people on the opposite side came from, and dared to stand in front of him. I'm still curious, what the hell did I do to be regarded as an important suspect by you? Luo Chen spat out the words in his stomach, but he was still confused. The two of them drew out the Zanpakuto, and they did not let their guard down when facing Luokan, Shiji, Shiwaimaru. Renji smiled and said, you're still pretending to be here, you've already been exposed. When Captain Nairi and Captain Kuchiki entered the boundary for investigation, the connection was cut off. After investigation, it was found that they were missing. What? Don't be surprised, I found your acting captain certificate at the scene, what's your explanation? Roared from the corner, Luo Chen touched his waist, very helpless. I lost the waist card of the acting captain, but it was lost by Jutu when I first came to the Soul World. Don't explain, we are going to take you to the court to explain. Luokan frowned, and even Rukia was very wary, because although the two were themselves Reiatsu and Breath, but the way they spoke was a little wrong. It can be said that they were more belligerent in their emotions, just fighting for the sake of fighting. I can't explain it right now, so I can only fight, there's no way, beat them and move on. Luo Chen took out his Zanpakuto, but he couldn't use all his strength. Firstly, we can't be sure of their authenticity, and secondly, come on, if you use too much power, the Reiatsu may be detected by others. Luokan threw the two of them down, and went up alone. If he cooperated with Ichigo and Rukia, it would actually slow down his annihilation speed. After that, he really bravely forced Renji and the others to retreat. You still want to fight with me, you are still far behind. Cut, can't beat him, but I've already notified the captain and them. Renji clicked his tongue. He wanted to hold off Luokan until support arrived. Luokan, you come with me. Yi quietly appeared on the house, used the ghost way to bind Renji in a corner, and waved at Luokan. Luokan nodded, and looked at Ichigo and Rukia. There is no good way to do it now. Regardless of whether the night in front of you is true or not, at least leave this place and talk about it. Chapter 1275. In just a few minutes, the news of Luokan's escape had spread throughout the entire S-Spirit Court, and the S-Spirit Court's defenses had been strengthened again. This time, everyone could not escape. Fortunately, Luokan and the others have reached Yi's secret hideout now. It's still safe at this stage, but it's not the way to go on like this. So, Yi, what happened? Why did I become an important suspect? Why do those gods of death feel a sense of disobedience? Yi said solemnly, what's going on in the world of corpses and souls now? The whole world of corpses and souls is now wrapped in a conspiracy, and the god of death has been replaced by spirit skeletons. No one knows how many spirit skeletons there are in the god of death now. Spirit skeleton. Luokan has heard of Yi skeleton. I know Yi skeleton, isn't that the body that the god of death prepared for normal activities, but in this world of corpses where the soul is the body, why create such a corpse? What's the matter? XXX. Yi looked outside and explained, there are still spirit skeletons, and they will be used when performing various Yishan pills or related experiments in the soul realm. Technical Research Bureau. Luokan exclaimed, only the Technical Research Bureau can do this. There is no other company, so, the source of everything is the Technical Research Bureau. That's right, it's very likely that something happened in the Technical Research Bureau. By the way, Luokan, now we should make a plan. Luokan. Yi turned around and Luokan had long since disappeared. As for Luokan, I have already gone to the Technical Research Bureau just now. Ichigo pointed in the direction of the exit and said helplessly, Luokan's movements were really too fast. That guy, there really is no plan. The crowd quickly chased after him. The road to the Technical Research Bureau was not long or short, but it was eerily silent along the way. Even if there were traces of death's activity in the distance, there was no lindling pressure fluctuation within a few hundred meters. It's strange, why isn't there a patrol? Rukia asked curiously. Ichigo and Yaiki also scattered the Reiki, but only came into contact with Luokan's Reiki. When he came to the door of the Technical Management Bureau, Luo Chen had already entered, and the two guards at the door had already passed out. If he went in again, he entered the core area, and all the enemies were already passively asleep. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot seeking flowers katakana middle dot 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 katakana middle dot. When he came to the reference room, Luokan was already waiting, and Ichigo complained, Luokan, why are you so reckless, what would you do if you were seen? That's why I chose to sneak in. Didn't everyone be knocked unconscious by you? No one saw me, what is this not sneaking? Luokan shrugged, then his expression changed. Let's not talk about this, look at this information, I have a major discovery. 0. Luokan transferred the data to the big screen, and saw that there were audio and video recordings of the search data in the boundary. There was a log of observations about the boundary a long time ago, and there was also a report on the abnormality of the boundary a few days ago. Check the report. Look at this. On the big screen, there are videos and photos of the captains such as Niu Mayuri, Kuchiki Byakuya, and Zaragi Kenpachi investigating in the world, as well as photos of Luokan, Rukia, and Ichigo traveling between the soul world and the present world. This is the latest record. Then Luo Chen called up the information that surprised everyone, and what was displayed on the big screen was a girl who brought her soul back home. 100 million. Chapter 1276. It's her. This hair, this appearance, can't be wrong, she has something to do with this. Ichigo was shocked, and Rukia also covered her mouth. Whereabouts unknown, recently discovered in this world. If the arrest is difficult, it is allowed to be destroyed. Rukia read these words, which made everyone's heart tremble. Luokan nodded and turned off the screen. According to the current situation, it is very likely that this matter has something to do with the girl. I propose to rush back to the world immediately. She is being targeted, we must at least make sure first. His safety. I agree too, let's go then. Not much nonsense, the four of them immediately planned to set off towards the world, and Yi said worriedly, but to go to the world, you need to go through the gate of crossing the world. Maybe it was easy to pass before, but now it must have been laid beside the gate of crossing the world. The net of heaven and earth. Although those spirit skeletons are fakes, do they have strengths that even surpass the body? What should I do? Ichigo asked. Then break through the past. Luo Chen said bluntly, without any hesitation, now that I know of the intrusion of the spirit corpse, I won't hold back too much when I fight. Luokan, it really looks like your style. Ichigo sighed, but with Luokan, at least the possibility of being defeated or dragged can be reduced in a straight line. Coming. The four of them plan to drop directly in front of the gate. The less time it takes, the better. Crossing the realm gate is on a platform. Although it is vast, it is good for fighting, but it is not easy to get rid of the siege. Besides, Luokan and the others are not the ones who come for a decisive battle. Of course, it is better to fight quickly. Boom! The four of them jumped on the platform, and ran towards the Xuanji gate. At first glance, it seemed that there was really no ambush, but the next moment, a lot of death gods appeared. Among them, there are not only the captain level of Tushiro, but also the deputy captains such as Matsumoto Renji, etc. All of them are present, and the platform is instantly lively, but this is undoubtedly a sudden increase of pressure for Luokan and the others. Sure enough, it's here. The traitor and the traitor's companions. It's impossible to get out of the corpse and soul world. Dong Shilang blocked the road, and he aimed at Luo Chen. Get up for me. Nine-tailed fireball collided with Tushiro's ice wall, surrounded by a large amount of water vapor, which blocked everyone's sight. Do you think you can escape with this? Don't forget that the Reiatsu of the god of death is not a decoration. Renji let go of the Reiatsu and shouted, and everyone around let go of the Reiatsu, enough to cover the entire platform, but no one was found. Luokan smiled slightly. How could he not know? So he had covered the entire spiritual court with his spiritual pressure just now, and by the way covered up their spiritual pressure. Luokan's spiritual pressure completely overwhelmed everyone present. Reiatsu, how could they find out? The gate of crossing the world is right in front of you. Yi reminded. At this time the water vapor had gradually dissipated. Catch them, don't let them escape. The gods of death swarmed, but it was too late. The four people and one beast were only an inch away from the gate, and they could go to the world in the next instant. A figure stood in front of everyone, and his spiritual force rolled over. Although it didn't have much impact on Luokan and Yi, it blocked Ichigo and Rukia. Kuchiki Byakuya. Chapter 1277. Do you think you can escape? Kuchiki Byakuya is not that Kuchiki Byakuya anymore, but according to Luokan's experience, these spirit skeletons are stronger than their bodies. Kuchiki Byakuya will be very difficult to deal with. Although I can break through the past, it will be a little hard to bring Ichigo and Rukia with me. Luo Chen blocked Kuchiki Byakuya's Reiki and protected Ichigo and Rukia under his own Reiki. But Kuchiki Byakuya wouldn't give them time to react, so he rushed up in an instant, vowing to leave everyone behind. 22 You can't go there either, so be arrested. Boom! With one kick, Yi was knocked flying, and Luo Chen hurriedly rushed towards Yi's direction, trying to save her, but Toshiro and Ranju were all about to catch up behind them. If they were delayed any longer, it will definitely fall into a fierce battle, and the support of the entire Soul Society will come. Luo Chen didn't give up, but he was too far away. But at this moment, Yi's voice suddenly came from behind. Captain Kuchiki Byakuya, do you think I won't leave any means? Yi appeared behind Kuchiki Byakuya, and with one move, Kuchiki Byakuya flew out and stopped Luokan in front of the three of them. Facing the menacing death god, she said, Luokan, let's go first, I'll stop it here. Yi, there is still a chance. Don't worry, they still can't kill me. I'm also delaying time for you. Hurry up and don't stop. Yi said, and already rushed up, fighting with Kuchiki Byakuya and Tushiro. The gate of crossing the realm has been opened. In order not to make Yi's efforts in vain, the three bid farewell with tears. Knowing that now is not the time to fall, all this is to investigate and reverse the consequences. Walk. Buzz. The three of Luokan passed through the gate of crossing the realm and set off towards the present world. Oops, let them escape, hurry up. But the next moment, everyone was beaten away by Yi. She stood confidently in front of the gate of crossing the world and faced everyone. If you want to pass me first. For a while, the battle situation reversed, and now I don't know who is the group of people who want to pass through the gate. After coming to this world, Luo Chen didn't sit still, and immediately spread his spiritual pressure throughout the city, carefully covering every corner. Don't be careless. It was precisely because he knew the importance and mystery of the girl that he could not delay at all. If he came late and the girl was arrested, then the source of all information might really be cut off. At this moment, Luo Chen noticed the abnormality, which was a surge of spiritual pressure, some of whom were acquaintances and some of whom were unfamiliar. Ishida and Hisagi, there is another stranger, there is no doubt that they are fighting. Luo Chen greeted Ichigo and Rukia as they rushed to the battle site. Ishida is already at a disadvantage. No matter how fast his bow and arrow are, he doesn't seem to be able to catch the opponent at all. What's going on? The man's zanpakudo is in the shape of a stick or a spear, with blades on both sides. When he rotates the zanpakudo, a strange sensation will occur, and then Ishida will not be able to capture the opponent for a short period of time. Body shape. Boom. Ask for a review. Ask for collection. Ask for a reward. Ask for flowers. Chapter 1278. Ishida was knocked down, and his soul was caught by Bound Dao. The two of them could only watch the girl in front of them surrounded. What are you trying to do? Did she do something wrong? The other party didn't answer, but just slashed out quickly, not wanting to spend any more effort. What are you running away from? If you are obedient, you don't have to implicate others and you won't suffer. Ding! It was Luo Chen who blocked the knife for the girl. Sure enough, the fox's tail is exposed. You really want to kill the girl Juho Wangshi. You are acting Captain Luo Chen. I didn't expect you to escape. If you know me, then it's easy to handle. Ichigo and Rukia also rushed to the scene. They loosened the bonds for the soul and treated Ishida. What's going on? Ichigo asked. Hun grimaced and said, these people have been chasing them all the way here from home, and I almost lost my life. The key is this girl, and I haven't been able to protect it. Ishida said, I came here because I felt that there was something wrong with the Reiatsu, but fortunately, I supported you until you came here, so it doesn't matter if you get hurt. Kyubi and Luokan split up, knocked Hisagi to the ground, and then the two of them surrounded the enemy. You're Inaba Cage Wolfsa, right? HMPH, you actually knew. Inaba replied disdainfully. Just simple reasoning. What is your purpose? This time, Inaba didn't answer, but instead said, however, since you all know it, it means that you all have to die. Inaba didn't want to lose this opportunity. Now that Nozomi Kujo was right in front of him, in his eyes, whether it was Ichigo, Rukia or Ishida, he was not worth mentioning. I know what you're thinking, but I advise you to give up this idea. If you want to ask why, just look around. Luokan shrugged. What? Luokan, I didn't expect you to have already discovered it. Renji appeared, and he had already stood within a few dozen meters of Inaba, but Shiji could hit Inaba in an instant, and Inaba hurriedly retreated. But at this time, in this large abandoned factory space, old acquaintances appeared one by one. Zaragi Kenpachi led Yakiryu leaning on the railing. Kuchiki Byakuya stood with his sword in his arms, looking at Inaba coldly with every move. Tushiro and Matsumoto Renki also appeared, and they tightly surrounded Inaba. In the end, Ni Yuri and Ni Yinmeng suddenly appeared in front of Inaba, which really startled Inaba, but he wiped his sweat and pretended to be calm. So many captains and vice-captains put him under a lot of pressure. Diaresis, it's you, the 7th seat of our team, Inaba Shadow Wolf, a mere errand, don't be too arrogant. You are the initiator of this incident. Inaba sneered and said, this time I'll leave first, and when I get Juju Wangshi, let alone the soul world of corpse Monos, the whole world will be under my control. He said the most deterrent words in the most cowardly tone, and then left the world in despair and fled to the world of corpses. So, why are you all hiding in this world? What happened? Luo Chen asked. Don't worry, it's time to hold a meeting of the captains in this world to reveal all the information. Ni Yuli said with a smile. Chapter 1279. In Ichigo's room, the captains who have come to this world gathered together, and in the other room, Ishida, Orihime, Chado, and Soul take care of Nozomi Kujo. So, why do you want to come to my room? Ichigo complained. The small room that was originally not spacious was crowded with people. Rukia went into the closet, and Nimari and Nine Dream were sitting on the table. Zaragi Kenpachi sat cross-legged on the bed, while Kuchiki Byakuya had to stand up straight in the corner of the room. Stop talking nonsense. From now on, your home will be your stronghold, Nimayuri suggested, and with the unanimous consent of the captains, Ichigo had no choice. Who told him to be the agent of the god of death? Cough. Luokan coughed softly. It's time to get to the point. In the eyes of the captains, Luokan can be regarded as a temporary leader, because he is indeed very capable of leadership, and another reason is of course that Luokan defeated Aizen, which is enough to prove his strength. On the other hand, Luo Chen felt that he could not take up the responsibility of the captain level, so even if he was the acting captain, he didn't have a soldier yet. Niyuli first broke the silence. After all, this incident was caused by someone in their team. That guy's name is Inaba Keigalangzu, the 7th seat of our team, and a research expert in the world. He can be said to be dedicated his entire life to the study of the boundary. Can you tell me what happened that day? It's like this. After entering the realm, Inaba took control of the realm, and then led out Kudu to attack, but fortunately we escaped and were not abandoned outside the timeline. Luokan pondered. Then they must have used the time difference to insert the corpses of the captains that have been created. No, the corpses were inserted into the soul world. Niyuli complained. These spirit skeletons have been specially made into combat type by him, and their strength is stronger than our body, so it's not easy to deal with. What should I do next? This is the question that everyone is most concerned about. Staying in this world is not a solution. Sooner or later, the soul world will be controlled by that guy. Now that the mastermind behind the scenes has been figured out, it is time to make a plan for the next step. The most important thing now is to take back the soul world and protect Judiao Wangshi. Luo Chen said. Right now, it is estimated that there are only a few captains in the soul world that have not been replaced. We can find opportunities to collude with them, under our strict protection. It is good. That night passed like this, and Kujo Nozomi also woke up from the coma, but she didn't say a word, just stayed in the room blankly, not opening her heart to anyone. Orihime suggested, how about we hold a barbecue meeting? Wangshi, this is your welcome party, don't be cautious. When he said that he was going to do it, everyone was also very interested in this barbecue party, so they took part in it. After all, if you want to know the specific purpose of Inaba, you need to understand the situation from Juhomaki. Now is the time to deepen the bond. In the evening of the second day, after a busy day, the location, equipment, and ingredients for the barbecue were finally prepared. All of them were helped by Urahara, and the barbecue was finally ready. XXX. Chapter 1280. The captain and vice captain who were on guard in various parts of the city also rushed to the Urahara store, but an unexpected situation suddenly occurred. Luokan suddenly found that Wangshi was gone, and Wangshi, who was still watching from the sidelines just now, disappeared from sight. It's not good, everyone, it's an urgent task. Wangshi didn't know where he went, hurry up and look for it. Luo Chen immediately notified everyone, and everyone immediately took action. Now the whole city doesn't know how much danger there is, let alone what Inaba said. Wangshi seems to have a big secret. If such a person gets lost, the hidden danger is very big. Kiyue, can you do it? Luo Chen asked, and now he was in a panic and went to the doctor. I don't know if your nose is not working well, but this time my spiritual pressure will be discontinued. Because there is no trace of spiritual pressure fluctuations on Wangshi's body, it seems that its existence does not exist at all. Roar! Jue raised his head, and it rushed forward decisively with Luokan, as if it had already grasped the location of Wangshi. The sun was about to set, and half of his body had sunk below the horizon. The whole city was shrouded in dusk, and night was about to come. There, I found it. Jue's thoughts came. Luo Chen fell from the sky and landed on the bank of the river, and Wangshi was right in front of him. Wangshi, what are you doing? Everyone wants to hold a welcome party for you and wait for you to go back. Luo Chen shouted. It has nothing to do with you. After Wang Shi said this, he quickened his pace, and Zhu Wei rushed up and climbed onto Wang Shi's shoulders. Wang Shi stopped for a while, but still refused to look back. Luokan approached slowly, knowing that now she can't act rashly when she doesn't understand what she's thinking, or she will lose her sense of security. No. It has nothing to do with you. Wang Shi seemed to understand something in her heart. She wanted to leave, but was blocked in front of her. Chrysanthemum. Luo Chen breathed a sigh of relief. Luanju said, let me communicate with her. After all, girls of this age are very sensitive. Let me, who is also a woman, enlighten her. You go back first. Luokan nodded. For girls, he is really not very good at it, so he can be regarded as a professional counterpart to let the experienced Luanju handle this matter. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot seeking flowers katakana middle dot 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 katakana middle dot. After Luo Chen left, Luanju looked at Luo Chen who was far away. Chen took Wang Shi's hand and said, come here, don't be afraid, let's have a good chat. Luokan returned to the Urahara store, was about to take a good rest and told everyone to end the search, but saw Matsumoto Renki standing in front of the Urahara store. 0. Ranju, you're not he Wangshi, it's too bad. Luokan scolded himself in his heart for letting his guard down. Although this was the first time he had encountered this type of enemy, it was really tricky, but Luokan still scolded himself. That's not right, I'm afraid I'll be kidnapped. Before Luanju could react, Luokan had already turned around and returned, because at this time news had also come out from Zhu Wei who was hiding on Wangshi. Although Luanju didn't know what happened, from Luo Chen's words and reactions, he knew that something must have happened. Is it really a fake? You actually cheated under my nose, let's see how I'll take care of you. Luo Chen kept rushing away. 100 million. Chapter 1281. Although there is no way to sense the spiritual pressure of Wangshi, but the spiritual pressure of the Nine Tails and the fake Ranju's spiritual pressure Luokan can still be captured. Kiyue, help me hold that guy down, I want to see what she is capable of. Luo Chen gave an order in his heart, it would be bad if he was taken away by the other party this time. Zhu Wei's thoughts came, indicating that he was ready. If the fake random chrysanthemum over there did something strange, Zhu Wei would stop it immediately. Very good, wait for me. However, it doesn't matter if I clean her up ahead of time, right? Zhu Wei automatically blocked the call with Luokan after saying this in her heart. Hey, Luokan sighed, but his feet sped up a bit. Really, it depends on you or me. On this side, Kyubi hid Reiatsu under Wangshi's hood, and two small eyes observed this fake chamomile from the gap in Wangshi's hair. As for why it is false, it is because the Matsumoto Ranju behaved abnormally. After Luo Chen left, he immediately pulled Wangshi to the alley, and also kept Wangshi firmly beside him, as if he was afraid of her escaping. Look. Hee, you little girl, where else do you want to escape? Go back with me obediently, or you will die here, you choose one. Matsumoto Ranju pulled Wangshi's arm, with a very bad attitude and was about to start. Roar. Kyubi couldn't watch it anymore, it jumped out from behind and blocked Matsumoto Ranju's Zanpakuto with its sharp claws. What is this? Is it the little beast that has been following Luokan? Matsumoto Ranju stepped back and looked vigilantly at the little guy in front of him, who was only the size of a cat and dog, but Reiatsu was extremely terrifying. In fact, after Luo Chen was able to use the dissolution, the nine-tailed body size could already be expanded to the size of an elephant, and the spiritual pressure provided by Luo Chen could continue to expand. Captain level. How is this possible? Matsumoto Ranju was a little flustered, because Kyubi's Reiatsu had obviously reached that stage, but she didn't want to believe it. Kyubi bared his sharp teeth and stood in front of Wangshi. Matsumoto Ranju's heart swayed, knowing that now was the best opportunity. Since Kyubi already knew that he was a fake, support must come soon. Gray Cat. The Zanpakuto of the fake Matsumoto Ranju and the real Zanpakuto have the same abilities. This is a Zanpakuto with the same attributes as Kuchiki Byakuya's Senbon Sakura, and it is an all-round attack that makes people unable to guard against it. However, the extension and expansion of the tail of the nine tails will make the whole person report it. The fur of the nine tails looks silky and soft, but it can also be as hard as Zanpakuto in battle, and the Gray Cat of Zanpakuto no way to start. Damn, what kind of monster is this? Matsumoto Ranju's heart began to get nervous. Time had passed for too long, and it couldn't be dragged on any longer. Just when she wanted to concentrate on attacking with all her might, Nine Tails had already caught her flaw. Don't think that I can't do anything if I hide in the Gray Cat. You know, my perception is stronger than that of a captain-level death god. Nine Tails thought. Kyuubi's sharp claws broke through the fog and grabbed Matsumoto Ranju. Ding! The buzzing sound of Zanpakuto, and then the fake Matsumoto Ranju was bounced off. Chapter 1282. You remember it for me. She responded very quickly, opened the gate of traversal and immediately escaped from the world. If she hadn't resisted it with the Zanpakuto, her body would have been bloody by now. Kiyue, are you all okay? Where's that guy? Luo Chen rushed to the scene. Roar. What? You've been beaten away. Forget it, Wang Shi, you'll be fine. This time it's really my negligence, but don't worry, all of us will protect you. Luo Chen comforted. The barbecue conference was held as scheduled. All of this was just a false alarm, but looking at everyone, Juho Wangshi had a mixed feeling in her heart. She didn't want to hurt anyone else because of herself. It's fine if I'm alone, anyway, we didn't know each other before, just let me disappear quietly. Juju Wangshi was eating meat skewers, with a lot of thoughts. At this time, in the Soul Realm, most of the captains of the original Gotei 13 have been replaced, and only Kyoraku Chunsui, Uzumaki Shuru, Uno Hanaritsu, and Yamamoto's captain are all fine, but they still don't know what happened. About what happened in the Broken Realm, Captain Namori, can you tell me in detail? Yamamoto asked. The fake Niyuli smiled wickedly in her heart and stepped forward one step, adding fuel to jealousy. He said, all of this is because of that guy Luo Chen. When he was in the world, I didn't expect him to use the hand of cooperation to get rid of me and the other captains. That kid, he even plotted against me, and he will definitely not be able to forgive him next time we meet. Fake Garaki Kenpachi said viciously, filled with righteous indignation. Then all the fake captains started to say one sentence to guide the final result of the captains' meeting. Although Yukitaki and Kyoraku didn't quite believe it, in the end, Captain Yamamoto still made the decision. Although Luokan has made such a great contribution to the Soul Society, and I value him very much, this matter is too serious. Now go to the world to arrest Luokan. Although Yamamoto was very determined, he only ordered the arrest, because he still has trust in Luo Chen. But these fake captains don't think so. In that case, we can certainly kill him in the process of arresting him. Of course, Judiao Wangji can bring the best. If it can't be brought, just destroy it directly. Anaba Shadow Wolf from the Research Bureau. Yes. The gate of crossing the world opened, and the vice captains such as Yijao, Gongjin, Omaeda, Matsumoto Ranju, Rukia, and Renji were all dispatched. In this world, it was already night. Wang Shi suddenly woke up from the bed, her heart suddenly throbbed, and she looked at the mountains and forest from the window. Now, I have to go, I don't want to drag anyone down. She simply packed it up without leaving any information, and walked to her destination with the determination to never return. Luokan opened his eyes suddenly, just in case. Luokan asked Jue to follow him to look at the real, so as not to get lost again. This time he sensed that the nine-tailed spiritual pressure was constantly moving. This guy, why is he running around so late? Luo Chen immediately got up and wanted to follow him, but at this moment, a spiritual pressure from the crossing gate suddenly appeared over the city, and then several people passed through and dispersed. Everywhere. It's here again. Luokan had no choice but to inform everyone that his leadership, which he didn't want to admit, was vividly displayed again. 2 pieces of bad news. Wangxi is lost, the enemy is attacking. Take action. Chapter 1283. Where are we going now? The skeleton asked from the corner. They looked at the city, and a familiar and unfamiliar feeling hit their hearts. I think it's good to meet the main body. It should not be called the original seed now, because after killing them, we are the main body. Lingxi Renji suggested. That's right, I'm also very interested in the original species. Yoshiko Yuki also agreed, and in the end, everyone temporarily abandoned their original tasks and went to find their own body. On Luokan's side, because of the emergency mobilization in the middle of the night, everyone's hearts were hanging in their throats. Orihime, Ishida, and Chadu helped to find Wangxi, while the gods of death in the Soul Society began to welcome the enemy's attack to avoid anyone. Take advantage of the loophole and quietly take away Wangxi. Why do we want to come to the forest? The corner complained. Although everyone didn't know it, there was an attraction in the dark. Gongqin looked around vigilantly and said, I don't know, but I have a hunch that something will be encountered here. Sha. The sound of the leaves rubbing sounded from the opposite side, and came to a clearing, and then the moonlight, everyone saw the visitor clearly. It was you. It's amazing, I can actually see my own charm like this. Gongjin looked at the opposite self, and Renji and Yizhao also looked curiously at the other self who could not be distinguished at all. But Omaeda was looking around in the crowd and didn't see himself. What? It's boring, it seems that I'm the only one fighting someone else. Hey, look carefully, ugly man. Am I not here? A death god with a good figure, 8-pack abs, a handsome face, and completely different from Omaeda responded. What? Omaeda turned from shock to anger. How dare you humiliate me like this, I can't spare you. Without a word of speculation, they immediately fought into a group, but the difference in strength was obvious. It was just a few short fights, and the main body was all at a disadvantage. At the same time, Rukia and Nainmeng had also met their own righteous corpse, and Luokan happened to pass by and came to help immediately. Lord Luokan. Seeing Luokan's arrival, Nianmeng immediately had a support in his heart, but the other party's Nianmeng had the same memory and emotion as Nianmeng's main body, and the two of them immediately did their part. As long as you kill her, Luokan will, the Lord is mine. Diaresis, don't try to succeed. Nianmeng didn't want this kind of thing to happen. She also wanted to express herself in front of the people she liked. Lord Luokan, go and help Kuimu first, I can do it alone. You have to be careful. I'm always on call. Luo Chen nodded, and immediately switched to Rukia's side, because Nianmeng's side still prefers physical combat, and Rukia's side only has spirits overwhelmingly. The outcome of this battle has already been decided, Mono is good. Falling dust. Lingu Rukia was startled. Her memory told him that Luo Chen's strength was definitely at the level of a captain. Even if he was a battle-enhanced type, he couldn't fight hard, he could only outsmart or simply run away. Sleeve Baishui. Lingu Rukia immediately started the solution and wanted a quick solution, but Luo Chen was fully prepared. Ice Zanpakudo, you are still far behind. The first chapter 1284. The two ice blades contacted in the air, and the surrounding space began to cool down rapidly, but the three of them knew that all of this was due to the power of Luokan's Zanpakudo, and Rukia's spiritual pressure alone had not reached this level. It's so cold. The ice-type Zanpakudo used by spirit skeleton Rukia had a certain resistance to ice and snow, but she still felt the cold in the realm of falling dust, which gave her the idea of running away immediately. Luokan and Rukia flanked back and forth, leaving each other with no way to escape, and the skeleton Rukia was in crisis. Don't force me. It's a big deal. Do you have that determination? You finally have the opportunity to replace your main body. I don't think you dare to burn all the jade and stone. Luo Chen angrily reprimanded. Lingu Rukia was criticized to the point. She stood there dumbfounded, she didn't know what to say anymore. Although she finally decided to give it a shot, Luo Chen took advantage of the confrontation time not to be unprepared for anything. Sleeve Baishui. The spirit skeleton Rukia's spiritual pressure is fully open, and if it encounters Toshiro, it can still have the strength to fight, but in front of Luokan, this is completely a slap in the face. It's too weak, it's too weak. Luo Chen gently waved his knife, completely smashing the ice wall formed by Shu Baishui, and the aftermath spread to the spirit skeleton Rukia, overturning her to the ground. It's a joke, if Luokan can't easily suppress the vice captain level death god. If you say it, don't get involved in the soul world, and even Yamamoto's old face will be disgraced. Boom. The body of the skeleton Rukia exuded a burst of smoke, and the whole person disappeared, leaving only the death tyrant costume, and a marble-shaped thing rolled down on the ground, similar to the soul pill. Is this her body? Luo Chen picked it up, and in order to avoid becoming a scourge in the future, he directly crushed it in his hands. XXX. Ding. Kill the skeleton and get points. On the other side, Ninmeng's main body has also won the victory. With Luokan by her side, her fighting power seems to have improved. Suddenly, the spiritual pressure of several people on the other side became erratic, and they were already seriously injured. Luokan scanned it carefully and sighed. It was Renji and the others who also encountered their own spiritual skeleton. Now they are seriously injured, take care of yourselves. I'll go to the rescue. Boom. Renji, Yuzhou, Gongjin, and Omaeda were surrounded by the center of the open space. Everyone was seriously injured. If they hadn't supported each other, they would have collapsed to the ground. Why, this can't be done. Where did the domineering go? The strength of such rubbish is still my original seed. I really can't afford to lose this person. You bastards. Renji gritted his teeth and held a Zanpakuto, but he was exhausted. You guys are the easiest people to get into trouble, and I'm the least worried about you. Luo Chen hates that iron is not steel. Besides, the strength of those righteous corpses is stronger than the body, so you, don't waver, people are gone. Falling dust. When Ling Zan and the others saw Luo Chen coming, they were instantly stunned. Heroes don't suffer from immediate losses. Our main task is not to kill Luo Chen, but to arrest Judiao Wangxi, don't you think? That's right. Let's go. Before Luokan could make a move, they immediately dispersed as birds and beasts, fleeing everywhere. Luokan sneered. In the end, a replica is a replica, but since your goal is to be realistic, we will meet again soon, so make up your mind. Chapter 1285. Luokan, you can count it. They are really powerful. They are called spirit skeletons, right? Omaeda was relieved when he saw Luokan. If Luokan came later, they would not be able to protect themselves. Aren't you injured? Luo Chen dodged slightly, grabbed his arm, and avoided Omaeda's embrace. I think you are alive and kicking. Looking at the other people next to him who had collapsed to the ground and couldn't move, Omaeda said proudly, this really proves that a beautiful appearance is more resistant to beatings. I think you're just fleshy. Renji was lying on the ground with blue and purple patches all over his body, and his death tyrant outfit was tattered, but among the crowd, he was still pretty good. What are you talking about? Did the battle just now hurt your eyes? Alright, Ishida is coming soon. Luo Chen just felt the reiatsu that Ishida was running fast, so he could just leave the aftermath to him, so he gave Renji and the others a few recovery potions. Wangxi may be in danger. I'll go first, you wait for Ishida to help. After speaking, Luokan disappeared. Hey, don't run, Luokan, does Ishida still have healing skills? At this time, they hoped that it was Orihime who came here. But Luokan had already gone far at this time, because according to what the skeletons said just now, they must have already moved towards the goal of Wangxi. Kyubi, how are you? No abnormality has been found so far. Ninetail's thoughts flashed, and it kept following Wangxi. On the surface, Wangxi seems to be indifferent to everyone, but unexpectedly, he likes Kuwei very much, and he will be happy when he is in front of Kuwei. Wangxi and Juwei went all the way without stopping. They had already left the city and came to the mountain forest. There is a small road leading to the shrine on the mountain. Juwei didn't know why Wangxi came, but just followed. Along the way, she was basically silent. Language. Luo Chen let go of the spiritual pressure and once again covered the entire city, intending to find out the whereabouts of the spirit skeletons, but happened to find Song, who was in a hard fight. This, chaotic chrysanthemum. No, the Reiatsu is not stable, it must have been a lot of damage. Luo Chen turned back, planning to help Matsumoto Ranju to deal with the enemy first. Just leave it to me with confidence. Ninetails responded. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot seeking flowers katakana middle dot 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 katakana middle dot. Although Luokan couldn't tell the difference between the spirit skeleton and the main body now, Hisagi, who fought against Matsumoto Renki, did not come to this world, so Luokan judged that Hisagi should be the spirit skeleton who followed Inaba at the beginning. Boom! In the construction site, Matsumoto Ranju was knocked into the air by Hisagi's Zanpakuto. Although her strength is considered to be the best among the vice captains, but Hisagi shoving spirit skeleton's strength is even stronger. You should know the ability of my Zanpakuto after the first release, right? Hisagi, the spirit skeleton, smiled smugly. He looked at the scarred Ranju and felt that the victory was in his hands. Of course, everything you touch will become heavier. Right, but I will kill you before my Zanpakuto can't hold it. Matsumoto Renku refused to admit defeat. Spirit skeleton Hisagi reminded, but we are all strengthened spirit skeletons, so the ability of Zanpakuto has also been strengthened. Matsumoto Ranju was taken aback, only to find out that the Zanpakuto that she had dropped on the ground could no longer be picked up. She couldn't use her body to fight the opponent. 100 million. Chapter 1286. Ding! Fallen Chen's Zanpakuto resisted the attack of Hisagi, the spirit skeleton, and led an arm around him to take Matsumoto Renki away from the center of the battle. Luokan. The spirit skeleton Hisagi wanted revenge after being repelled by Luokan with Inaba last time, but the last time Luokan was lined up, the captain level gathered, and he went up to his own death. Pick. Be careful with his Zanpakuto. Renku Matsumoto was exhausted from wielding the Zanpakuto that was too heavy. Hisagi's Zanpakuto is in the shape of a hook. Even if he doesn't want to, he can only admit that his weapon can limit the attack of many kinds of swords and will be interrupted, which also gives him a good opportunity to contact. Which can make the opponent's weapon heavier. Isn't it enough to defeat him before that? Luo Chen's tone was very casual, but he did not let his guard down. Because Hisagi's Zanpakuto ability is really tricky, as long as it can be dragged down, it is basically Hisagi's victory, even at captain level. Lingshan Hisagi can't do this, he just thinks Luokan is bluffing. I've already strengthened it, so there's no problem. Ding! The two Zanpakuto clashes were just a short clash, and their weapons had collided more than 10 times, which means that Hisagi's ability had worked more than 10 times. It really got heavier. Luokan's wrists could no longer support that weight, so he could only hold the knife with both hands and use it as a two-handed sword. A few more times, you'll have to abandon your Zanpakuto and fight me with your bare hands. Luokan was no longer in love, but ran upstairs quickly. How could Hisagi, the spirit skeleton, let this happen? He also chased after him, intending to solve Luokan in one go. In the blink of an eye, the two of them had already reached the top floor, and they fought again. Luo Chen's knife became heavier and heavier, and both hands were already struggling, so the speed of the swing was gradually unable to keep up, and he gradually fell into a disadvantage. Stupid. My Reiatsu has only increased slightly, but my ability is 10 times that of the original. In other words, your Zanpakuto has become 1,000 times heavier. Spirit skeleton Hisagi felt that the opportunity had come, and planned to defeat Luo Chen in one go, but Luo Chen grabbed the Zanpakuto in his hand and muttered, "Just right." What? I think you can catch it. Luo Chen leapt into the sky and swung his Zanpakuto vigorously. This time, it wasn't a slash, but simply threw his extremely heavy Zanpakuto at the opponent. Spirit skeleton Hisagi didn't react, so he could only resist with his Zanpakuto instinctively, but there was really no way to remove the impact, so under the impact, he fell all the way from the top floor to the bottom floor. Boom! Like a meteor falling to the ground, it smashed a big hole in the ground. The ground vibrated, causing the steel bars erected next to it to collapse one after another, and several of them directly pressed onto his knife. Damn it! I can't pull it out. Hisagi, the spirit skeleton, spat out a mouthful of blood, clutching the hilt with both hands, but to no avail. Luokan smiled and said, "Now your ability has become a burden. How about it? How does it feel to be hundreds of times heavier than normal steel bars?" Kai, Hisagi, the spirit skeleton, gave up the struggle. He knew that his deadline was up. In the end, due to the severe injury, it turned into a cloud of smoke, leaving only the death fighter and a small pill. Chapter 1287. Luokan, thank you. If you hadn't come, I would have. Matsumoto Ranju has been rescued by Luokan more than once, and she feels very guilty, because of her lack of strength and Luokan every time dangerously worried. Luokan comforted. It doesn't matter, if you have any questions about your cultivation, you are welcome to come to me at any time. Yes. Luokan called Orihime and asked Orihime to come to help Matsumoto Ranju, because Luokan was delayed, and he had no time. Under Lingya's scan, he found that all the 22 spiritual skeletons had found anomalies, and rushed up the mountain. No, Wangshi's whereabouts have been discovered, I have to hurry up too. But one step walking slowly, Luo Chen can only shorten the time, the wind blows under his feet, and the spiritual pressure pushes forward, heading towards the place of the nine tails. Wow! It's amazing, I seem to be able to understand what you're saying, but this should be the trouble in my heart. Wangshi looked at the nine tails on his shoulders, but regarded it as an ordinary pet. Anyway, you don't understand what I'm saying, so I'll tell you. Wangshi sighed. Sometimes she walked slowly, as if she was very reluctant to give up, but sometimes she walked quickly, as if she was escaping something. It's very close. In front of it is the main gate of Ichijinja Shrine. There is a little bit of abnormal Reiatsu there. It's a small fluctuation of Reiatsu that even a leader-level Shinigami can't detect if you don't look carefully. I know that as long as I am caught by that guy Inaba, not only will I be in danger, but even the Soul Society and the world will be in unprecedented crisis. Wangshi looked straight ahead, so as long as I wouldn't it be alright to disappear. Wow! In addition to the Soul realm and the stable piercing gates in this world, there are many unexplored small piercing gates between the two, but they have not been detected and used because of the dangers in them. Too big. Some are too narrow to pass through, some are completely branch lines, abandoned outside of time, and some are like a labyrinth, you can't get out when you enter, but no matter which one is, it is my last and best belonging. Ninetails communicated with Luokan through Reiatsu, and Luokan felt that something was wrong. This idiot is planning to sacrifice himself. Wangshi took off the nine tails from her shoulders and placed them away from the Xuanji gate. She slowly walked towards the Chuji gate by herself. As long as I enter, no one will be able to find me, not even Inaba. I will disappear into this world forever, wandering in loneliness. Wangshi had already made up his mind. But just when Kujo Mizumi was about to step into the abyss, he was stopped by someone. Mizuki turned his head to look, and it was Matsumoto Ranju who grabbed his shoulders. Where do you think you can go? Just this sentence, Wangshi had already heard it. It was not Matsumoto Ranju himself, but a corpse. Spirit skeleton Matsumoto stubbornly held Wangshi's arm. Wangshi couldn't take a half step closer to the piercing gate, and could only be dragged away by her obediently. At this time, the other people of Lingshan also arrived one after another. Finally caught. That guy Luokan will arrive in a while, so let's go now. What are you afraid of? There are so many of us, why should we be afraid of him? By the way, you didn't escape back, right? Matsumoto, the corpse, wanted to be ashamed, and she wanted to swallow the dust alive. Chapter 1288. No, we just thought about the task, Yijiao said irritably. If he appears again, I will definitely let him go without food. What did you say? Luokan came airborne, and the spiritual pressure instantly covered the mountain, and the spirit skeletons shuddered, but they glanced at each other, swallowed, and suppressed the fear in their hearts. Everyone knows that running away doesn't work now. It's better to defeat Luokan on the spot. Maybe there will be a first-line upgrade, and they don't think they will lose. The first solution. Shuei Maru. The first solution. The Grey Cat. They were not willing to underestimate the enemy and tried their best, just for a quick solution. Beginning solution. Nine Tails. Luo Chen did not intend to underestimate the enemy in the face of several vice-captains. Su Ryan just used a simple beginning solution. The corner of the corpse attacked first, but Luo Chen had already seen through the action of the corner. Both the body and the corpse are fighting recklessly. Such a flaw is quite big. Boom. The corner was killed in one step, and it first turned into smoke. It didn't take much effort, but the corpses rushed up. This situation is not the one-on-one fight with Hisagi just now. Most people need to see and listen to all directions. That's it. Of course Luokan is not ordinary, but the spiritual pressure spreads out, and everyone's movements have been fully grasped. The advantage of Luokan's spiritual pressure operation now is that even with eyes closed, he can fight accurately and without error. Luokan resisted different attacks from 3 directions, whether it was stabbing, slashing or ghost path, no water leaked. Really, after Aizen, all the bulls, ghosts, snakes and gods have come out, do you really take yourself as a character? Luo Chen sighed, and a feeling of being at a high altitude came to his mind. Bang bang bang. With one slash, the spirit skeleton was completely destroyed, and it didn't take much effort at all. Now, only the captain-level spirit skeleton can make Luo Chen fall into a protracted battle. At the same time, in the basement of the Urahara store, the captains did not participate in this operation, but concentrated on discussing the issue of counterattack. It can't be dragged on any longer. Now we should fight back. Wang Shi has been attacked over and over again, so why not just do it once and for all? Urahara said, I now have a way for you to pass through the Broken Realm and reach the Soul Realm, but the success rate is not high. How do you say that? Toshiro asked. It has been confirmed that Inaba didn't completely control the boundary, because he couldn't control the appearance of Yutuhei at will, but this also proves that only using Yutu is the key. Diaresis in other words, you need to follow the Juryu. If the time is too early, you will be attacked by the Juryu. If the time is too late, you will be controlled by Inaba. Here, the 4 captains, Toshiro, Kuchiki Byakuya, Zaragi Kenpachi and Murazajan, fell into deep thought. They don't have a spectrum in their hearts, and this is just Urahara's theoretical explanation, and no one knows what the actual situation is. But, you have to go, right? Believe in Mr. Urahara, and believe in yourself. Luokan, you are here. Wang Shi is safe for the time being, and I'll rush over immediately. Of course, you have to take me with you. Luokan said firmly, so if you're not sure, let me take the lead this time. Chapter 1289. XXX. Without further ado, under the leadership of Luokan, the captains finally let go of their hesitation, because they knew that even if they didn't go, Luokan would definitely go first. Kuchiki Byakuya, Hitsugaya Toshiro, Zaraki Kenpachi and Murazajan who are on the scene now plan to follow Luokan to the Soul Realm for a counterattack. Let the vice-captains stand by here, this is our captain's level. Fighting. It is good. Urahara looked at the captains who had determined their goals, and opened the door to the Soul Realm. This was a simple device that could generate a gate through the realm, but now the fate of the entire Soul Realm was tied to this gate. Let's go, Urahara instructed. He adjusted the time node of crossing the gate so that they could enter at the most accurate time. Without any hesitation, the 5 captains, including Luo Chen, rushed in without any delay, and the 9 tails did not fall. Buzz! There was a burst of spiritual pressure fluctuations from the crossing gate, which indicated that everything was running normally, but Urahara did not dare to take it lightly. Before all the captains safely crossed the boundary and reached the Soul Realm, it was always out of danger. Luokan and the 5 of them have stepped into the space of breaking the boundary in a blink of an eye, and in front of them is the Jutu who just passed. Most of the death gods only saw Jutu in front and were chased, and it was rare that they could just get behind him, even the captains had never seen them. But no matter it was before or after, the terrifying Reiatsu revealed by Kutu couldn't be resisted. Run, follow Kutu and use it to reach the soul realm. Luo Chen instructed, and he ran towards Kutu. Of all the people, he was the one who was least worried. Because the captains will be involved in the long river of time after they come into contact with Yutu, because with Luokan's current strength, they can be exactly the same as the original Aizen, it can be said that they can crush Yutu easily. Dudu. In the Technical Research Bureau of the Soul Society, Inaba Cage Langzhou received an alarm from the Broken World, which indicated that an intruder was heading towards the Soul Society. HMPH, it's pretty smart. I know that I can't completely deal with you two now, but you still made a mistake. Inaba did not panic. The captain level Raya will have an impact on Yuliu. I don't believe you can get here unscathed. Inaba is really an expert on the study of the boundary, and he has already encountered a big situation on the side of Luokan, because the Jutu is often accompanied by the stream. After the passage of the Jutu, the originally silent wall of the boundary came alive under the pressure of the captain. For detention. Julu drowned everything in this broken world, and in a blink of an eye, it was already sweeping towards Luo Chen and the others. No. It's Julu. Luokan looked back and saw that the madly surging viscous liquid was attacking indiscriminately. There was a sudden force in the front and a force in the back. It was already a dead move. If there was only Luo Chen alone, he could still guarantee that he would not be affected by the impact of Julu, but this time there were a lot of people here, so Luo Chen could only give it a shot. Continue to run forward, and I will block Yuliu. Luo Chen pulled out his Zanpakudo, slowed down slowly, and stood behind everyone. Luokan, what nonsense are you talking about? Juryu is not something that the god of death can handle. Tushiro was very worried. Kuchiki Byakuya gradually stopped, and Zengi Kenpachi also planned to help Luokan. Chapter 1290. Luokan doesn't do things that he is not sure about. He condensed his spiritual pressure, and his eyes flashed with fire. 9 tails, dissolution. Boom. The entire broken realm was shaking, and a surge of spiritual pressure expanded rapidly, wrapping the captains in, and Julu slammed into it. But then, the situation reversed. Just now, the stagnant current, which was just like the rising tide of sea water, was lying on the outside of the dusty spiritual pressure. At first, it was still surging, swallowing, and rolling. Continuing to spread, they can only slowly go silent. This is Reiatsu suppression, Village Zojun said in surprise, but he couldn't believe it, because he had never heard of such a method. Everyone nodded. There is no other theoretically feasible method. Juliu will be attracted by the captain-level spiritual pressure, resulting in generation, but Luokan can use his own spiritual pressure in turn to recompress Juliu into a broken world. Wall. It's not skill, it's pure power. Okay, let's go. Luo Chen waved his hand, and the captains recovered from their shock, only to realize that Luo Chen had already arrived at the exit. Arriving at the Soul Realm, as soon as I landed, I noticed that a different kind of Reiatsu was surging wildly, venting in the entire spiritual court. They were all familiar with it. This was the Reiatsu of Captain Yamamoto. What's going on? Could it be that Inaba couldn't bear to attack the commander-in-chief? Village Zojun looked in the direction of the battle. Luokan sensed carefully. It's Captain Jingle Chunshui and Shuru Yukataki. Captain, as expected, it should be the skeleton, they are fighting. What about the real them? I didn't feel it, maybe I was imprisoned, but I have to be prepared to be killed, although I don't want to believe it. Although the captains of Gote 13 didn't seem to have a very good relationship, in fact, after being captains together for so many years, there is still some love. The most urgent task is to capture the thief first and the king first. If you go to kill the leader Inaba, everything will stop in time. I believe Yamamoto can handle those two guys. Luo Chen planned so, and the captains also agreed. There are many ambushes here. In order not to wipe out the whole army, we'd better act separately. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot seeking flowers katakana middle dot 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 katakana middle dot. After a simple plan, they moved from several directions to where Inaba Shadow Wolf might be, and Luo Chen also walked straight towards the Technical Research Bureau. The entire spiritual court has been used by Inaba to use the skeleton to take the captain level and the deputy captain level, so they are likely to encounter a sudden attack. Sure enough, just a few steps away from everyone, Luo Chen encountered the enemy, who was already waiting in front of Kenpachi's Akagi. No, it's the spirit skeleton. Luo Chen looked at the other party vigilantly. The spirit skeleton Zaraki Janba blocked in front of him, and he was obviously shocked to see Luo Chen's arrival. What? I sensed the strongest Reiatsu and thought it was my body, but I didn't expect it to be you. Luoken smiled and said, why, I know that the 13th team of the Guardian is now. No, who should be the strongest of the 14th team of the Guardian? Of course it's me. Maybe that body's strength is not as strong, but I have been strengthened through battles. Luo Chen, I want to compete with you. 100 million. Chapter 1291. I'm in a hurry, if it's over, I don't mind. Don't play stupid, although I'm here to fight the main body, but since it's you, I can barely accept it, so you can't escape. Spirit Skeleton Kenpachi insisted, and never let go. Of course, in terms of clothing and spiritual pressure, it is undoubtedly Kenpachi's Engeki, so the sexuality of Kenpachi is also a perfect copy, so it is very difficult for Luoken to escape now. The wind blows, and the weather seems to understand people's hearts. Now the entire spiritual courtyard has become gloomy, dark clouds have begun to gather, and the feeling of depression is obvious to all. Okay, but the price is your death. Luo Chen was helpless. If he didn't defeat Spirit Skeleton Kenpachi here, even if he could get rid of it, he would be in great trouble. He pulled out his Zanpakudo and faced Spirit Skeleton Kenpachi. Spirit Skeleton Kenpachi grinned and said, that's right, this is the opponent I'm looking for, but don't talk big, because it's you who died here. One thing to say, Zaraki Kenpachi's body is definitely the most burly of the captains. Coupled with his fierce face, he feels very safe as a teammate, but as an enemy, it's really scary. Spirit Skeleton Kenpachi pulled out the Zanpakudo. The Zanpakudo and Zanpakudo's own Zanpakudo were indeed carved in the same mold, and even the tattered knife marks and gaps on the top were exactly the same. This is a relatively high place in the S-linking. Except for some pillars, it can be said to be unobstructed. The spiritual pressure of the two people is released to the fullest, and it goes straight to the clouds. Boom! Then there was a thunderstorm. Go! Spirit Skeleton Janpachi wields that big sword that is taller than the average person, both speed and strength are 1-to-1. Ordinary ghosts, shamans, etc. can be shattered when touched by this powerful attack, so Kenpachi's Akagi can become the only person who can become the leader without a solution. Spirit Skeleton Kenpachi is even more skilled. Although he also doesn't know how to use ghosts, his body is the same, but his level of spiritual pressure is different. The distance of dozens of meters passed by in an instant, and Luo Chen's eyes barely kept up with the movement without blinking. Note that the strengthening of Spirit Skeleton Kenpachi is really not a single star. After a fierce confrontation, neither of them started the first solution, but Luoken was forced to retreat. This is enough to see that in terms of physical strength and combat experience, Janba is indeed slightly better. Haha, do you have this kind of strength? I take back what I said earlier, but my body still takes you as an opponent. This strength is not as good as that of S-Linting watching the gate. Lingshan Janba smiled proudly. How is that possible? I haven't tried my best yet. Hearing what the other party said, Luo Chen thought he was not easy to bully, but he refused to accept it. Ding! The blade collides, and the spiritual pressure is also colliding. This is the fist to the flesh, and it is also the shadow of the sword and the sword. Often in the place where the sword has not touched in time, the two will return to punch each other, and the fight is not lively. At this time, after the prelude of thunder and lightning, it has started to rain here. Not drizzle, but a torrential rain that can completely drown people, but this rain has no meaning to wet them. Their spiritual pressure has already spread out, and the two of them are like holding two spiritual pressure umbrellas. Chapter 1292. Speaking of Reiatsu, their Reiatsu was not deliberately attacking, but the aftermath of Reiatsu had already violently demolished all the surrounding buildings. Boom! The two were knocked into the air by the other at the same time. One cut a gap on the ground, and the other hit the wall behind them, causing a collapse. Just after a few seconds of silence, they got up and went on to fight as if nothing had happened, which was exactly what Nutra said to Luokan, who was still eager to fight under the calm appearance of Luokan. Is it a materialized spiritual pressure? After several confrontations, Luo Chen felt that the slashing was not right, and Zengi Kenpachi had already covered his whole body with a materialized spiritual pressure in time. This defense is also a symbol of the captain's level. It can only make Luokan leave a small scar on his chest, and the blood will soon stop, and there is no serious problem. It seems that your strength has not improved much. If I were facing the main body, maybe I could play more happily. Even though he didn't get much advantage, Luo Chen still sneered. Lingshan Janba said angrily, "The end of the force. Watch me kill you." With a slashing method of Taishan's top-down attack, Luo Chen was completely suppressed by both the man and the knife. Intense sparks erupted between the weapons, and Luo Chen's body was half sunk into the ground. The brute force of Spirit Skeleton Kenpachi is still continuing. Luokan can feel that his hands are starting to go numb, and his bones are starting to creak. I have to admit that Kenpachi's physical strength is really powerful. Boom! The surrounding ground was all shattered, turned into rubble and rushed to all directions by the huge impact force, and the smoke rose into the air, like a volcanic eruption. Luokan fell deeply into the ground, but he still maintained his original posture and was not defeated by Kenpachi. The spiritual pressure of the two people's impact once again turned into a spiritual pressure wave, which continued to annihilate and spread to the outside world. The clouds in the sky were completely dissipated, and the rain stopped immediately. But this didn't interfere with the two who were fighting. Luokan has already understood that the slash of the spirit skeleton Kenpachi has been completed at this time, and the next strength is only to use his own weight and spiritual pressure to suppress it. Although spirit skeleton Kenpachi has a high degree of superiority, the old power has already been exerted, and the new power has not yet been generated. Chop! Luo Chen slammed off Janpachi's knife, and immediately turned to swing the knife to chop up, by surprise. Broken! Seeing this, Lingshan Janpachi was too close, so he could only use ordinary slashes to resist. He was too tired to deal with it. At the moment of the confrontation, his Zanpakudo was knocked out by the dust, and he was also slashed by a knife. Chest! It's time to fall down this time, right? It's the Tail Beast Jade, but I added the Tail Beast Jade to the slash. Luo Chen used the Tail Beast Jade to break through the materialized spiritual pressure, and then the slash followed. Spirit Skeleton Janba collapsed, and his body turned into a puff of smoke. He got up and patted the dust on Deathba's suit, and Luo Chen left without looking back, but when bad luck happens, bad things happen one after another. It was only a few steps away, and the skeleton Dong Shilang was already waiting in front of him. After seeing Luo Chen, his eyes were cold, and he didn't mean to let it go. When you're really in a hurry, you're stuck drinking cold water, even if you're on one piece. Besides, why are you all on my route? Luokan was helpless. The path he chose, he had to go through his teeth. Chapter 1293. Tushiro stared at Luokan and said, "Actually, if it's possible, I'd still like to compete with my original species. You all want to fight with the main body, so why are you coming to me?" So is the spirit skeleton of Kenpachi's Akagi. Luo Chen was really puzzled. "I don't want to talk nonsense." Dong Shilang drew his knife, stood directly opposite Luo Chen, and blocked the road. "No matter who comes over, I will block him, and of course if you want to escape, I will not block it either." When Luo Chen heard this, he smiled and said, this is my line, right, and if I'm not ugly, even if you try to run away, I won't let you go. Just talk big. Whether it's a lie or not, you'll know when you try it. Luo Chen's knife never retracted, and Dong Shilang even took the attitude of a lion fighting a rabbit, and immediately opened the solution. Solution. Big Red Lotus Bing Lun Maru. Tushiro's spiritual pressure skyrocketed, but this was just a tickling for Luo Chen. What really needs to be vigilant is more skill attacks than Kenpachi, who can only use normal attacks in one move. That is hard to guard against, especially Toshiro is the strongest ice-type Zanpakuto owner in the Soul World except Luokung. After the solution, the body of the skeleton Toshiro was covered with a layer of ice armor, with ice wings and an ice dragon tail, which was very domineering. Then it's time for you to see the power of the strongest ice-type Zanpakuto. It is also a kind of fate. Although my Zanpakuto has no attributes, it has the most ice-type abilities tilde. The Zanpakuto was also covered with a layer of ice. Lingu Toshiro said angrily, "Today, I not only want to replace the position of Jing Yuan, but also take back the name of the strongest ice-type Zanpakuto in the Soul Society." As expected of a combat-specialized type, even his ideas are so gunpowder, but you made a mistake, because today you can't take anything you want. The skeleton Toshiro and Luokan's Zanpakuto fought each other. The surrounding temperature dropped sharply. It was below zero and was still falling. The dark clouds in the sky condensed again. It was summoned by the skeleton Toshiro. It snowed in the courtyard. It's a wonderful sight. I didn't expect to be able to fight in the snow. Luo Chen smiled and was very satisfied. He actually started to enjoy the battle, and greeted the attack of the skeleton Dong Shilang. "You bastard, are you underestimating me?" The skeleton Dong Shilang flew out, and an ice blade fell from the sky, hitting Luokan, but the ice Luokan shattered directly. It's all the ice of the Zanpakuto. In this case, basically as long as the ice-type moves are used, neither side can hurt the other side. At this time, it is necessary to compete with spiritual pressure and actual combat experience. Diaresis, I underestimate you. Tell you, I didn't intend to fight you seriously without using my fire-type ability. Although there was a spirit skeleton in front of him, his appearance and memory were still the same person he knew. Nuo Zhao started, and Luo Chenya hoped that the skeleton Dong Shilang would retreat despite the difficulty. But the skeleton Toshiro took this as a provocation instead. The ice dragon spins its tail. Crush him. This is a skill that turns an attack into a huge ice dragon. The spiritual pressure condenses into ice and combines into a sturdy ice dragon. It roars and charges over, and the wind pressure formed by the spiritual pressure blows the corners of the Death Tyrant outfit into dust. Make a noise. 9 tails. D solution. XXX. Chapter 1294. Luo Chen was not to be outdone. The spirit pressure slash and the ice dragon swirl tail came into contact very close to the two of them, and the explosion swept everything around. I'm fooled. Fallen dust. In fact, I have a second paragraph. Flock of bird icicles. Lingu Dongshilang laughed loudly, and used the ice scattered by the ice dragon to make it into a sharp bird-shaped ice cone, piercing it through the mist. If this attack faces others, it may cause damage, but don't forget, I can also control the ice element. The fog dissipated, and Luo Chen's left hand was vacantly grasped, and all the ice attacked was blocked with 500 reishi defense. The ice cone that had lost its strength was suspended in the air, and then disappeared into pieces. Damn. Spirit Skeleton Toshiro gradually realized that the two of them were at least comparable in terms of skills. Then I'll crush you from the spiritual power. The Millennium Ice Prison. Dongshilang set up his sword, and the surrounding spiritual pressure quickly surrounded Luokan, and set up several explosion points to surround Luokan in the center. Luokan held the knife and waited quietly, not seeing what Dongshilang was going to do. The surrounding Reiatsu gathering points just gave birth to icicles dozens of meters high or even dozens of meters high in an instant, forming a circle to confine the falling dust. That's it. Cut. It doesn't work at all. Fallen Chen slash cut off the icicles by the roots. Lingu Dongshilang was a little dumbfounded. No one has ever been able to cut off all the icicles with one stroke. Seeing that the blow was not profitable, Lingshan Dongshilang was eager to control Luokan in his palm, so he stabbed forward, Dragon Rangia. When the blades of the two people exchanged, the skeleton Tushiro saw the timing, filled the blade with Reiatsu, and burst out as ice. The surrounding space was filled with sharp ice, and Luo Chen was drowned in the ice by the oncoming attack. Tushiro made this move, which was enough to seal everything. Click! The dragon shampoo shook, and Luokan was not sealed. He compressed his spiritual pressure outside the body to form a spherical structure. This seal only narrowed the range of Luokan's activities. The entire dragon shrapnel shattered and turned into scattered ice crystals. It's just a little trick to eagle worms. After Luo Chen said these words, he felt that he was the mastermind behind the invasion of the S-Spirit Court, and he couldn't help shaking his head. It's not over yet. Dong Shilang refused to admit defeat. He pointed his blade to the sky. The clouds in the sky were getting thicker and thicker, and it started to snow, more snow than just now. The world was white. Buzz. Every snowflake carries Dong Shilang's spiritual pressure fluctuations, and they move the dust from top to bottom, completely surrounding the space. Don't you like snowflakes? Don't you like watching snow scenes? This time I'll let you see enough. Lingu Dongshilang waved the ice wheel pill and gave an order, Bing Tian 100 flowers burial. All the snow that came into contact with Luokan bloomed white flowers of ice and snow on Luokan's body, and Luokan was quickly submerged in it. This is Tushiro's most powerful move. It can not only seal the enemy, but also use the cold Reiatsu that crushes the opponent. When did you have the illusion that only you can do this trick? Luo Chen whispered. What? Tushiro wanted to turn around in surprise, but found that he couldn't move at all. It turned out that watching Luokan gradually being submerged by snowflakes just now was just an illusion. In fact, it was himself who was sealed. Chapter 1295. I want to ask you something. Why do you listen to Inaba's words? Luokan asked a second before the freeze. I just want to become stronger. Only by becoming stronger can I protect the people I want to protect. This was the thought that Tushiro had always kept in his heart. Luokan knew that the person Tushiro was talking about was Hina Moritao. However, your path is wrong. I believe that your body will protect her, and of course I am one of them. The sky and the earth were silent, snowflakes were falling, and at the location of Dongshilang, the skeleton, an icicle had already formed, and he was frozen in it. Tushiro can still crack the normal ice-type Zanpakuto ability, but when he encounters an opponent whose Reiatsu and ability are higher than him, he will be completely powerless to deal with it. Let's go. Luo Chen left with the sword. The battle on Luokan's side has come to an end, but the battles of the others have just begun. Kuchiki Byakuya also happened to meet his own spirit skeleton. The two of them didn't talk for a while, but they couldn't look down on each other with just a few words. As expected of me, as I thought, when you came back here, you must have felt spiritual pressure, right? Myself, of course I have to do it myself. Although I do not admit you. It's not my turn to admit your original species. The two people opened the dissolution at the same time, and the surrounding space was full of blades, turning into petals flying all over the sky, with a strong fragrance and a thick sea of flowers, impacting together, but unfortunately there was no audience nearby. If it can be recorded, it must be the most beautiful battle ever in Soulsworld. On Toshiro's side, they encountered the spirit skeleton of Hina Mori Dao. In terms of strength alone, 5 or 6 Hina Mori Dao might not necessarily be Toshiro's opponents, but the reality is not like this. Luokan sensed that since Toshiro was always timid when attacking, although Hina Mori Dao was not the main body, he was still unable to attack, so he was injured many times and was forced into by Hina Moritao. Desperate. This kid, you want me to save him. Luo Chen just wanted to turn back, but he sensed that Yi Yi's spiritual pressure was approaching rapidly. He breathed a sigh of relief, and then walked forward. In the center of the spiritual garden, Captain Yamamoto also fell into a hard fight. The spirit skeletons who fought with him, Kairaku Chunsui and Yukitaki Shuru were not enough to force him to this level, but the spirit skeleton of Uno Hanaru after joining the battlefield, Yamamoto's pressure increased greatly. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot seeking flowers katakana middle dot 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 katakana middle dot. However, Captain Yamamoto is also the strongest death god in the millennium. He can still play 3 games by himself. It's just that his injuries have continued to increase, and it won't be long before he will be at a disadvantage if he can't turn the tide of the battle. 0-0. Why are you so stubborn, sensei? Shuru Yukitaki absorbed Yamamoto's flowing blade, and then reflected it back again. His power was not diminished. Even if Yamamoto was able to defend against it, he was also draining his stamina. Jingle Chunsui is the main force of the output. Most of the injuries on the mountain itself are caused by him. Even if the 2 of them are injured, Ujawali can heal in an instant, and the situation is not optimistic. In the bamboo forest. Captain Broken Bee, if you're here, it means your entire army is here, right? Zaragi Kenpachi laughed. He was never a person who was afraid of things. The more enemies he had, the more excited he was, but the village Zojun was not like that. Think. As expected of you, yes, come out. 100 million. Chapter 1296. Broken Bee waved his hand, and the hidden troops hidden in the bamboo forest appeared, but before the 2 could react, their attack was already in sight. Ding, ding, ding. The sound of the impact of the blade resounded throughout the bamboo forest, but the captain rank was the captain rank. Although there were a large number of people, it was really hard to break through the opponent's consciousness to get the number back. You 2, leave it to me here. You rushed to the Technical Research Bureau to restrain Inaba Shadow Wolf 50 Ling. Luo Chen had already arrived, joking, how could he let others snatch his prey? As for Inaba, Luo Chen believed that several captains would definitely be able to contain them, and it was only the 7th seat in the team, so it wasn't worth much points. It might as well be better to beat the spirit skeleton Broken Bee here to earn more. I'm going to teach this guy a lesson for Yaiki. Luokan, don't think about the joy of monopolizing fights. Zaragi Kenpachi shouted, I'll give it to you this time, there's no next time. Zaragi Kenpachi and village Zojun left, but Broken Bee did not stop them, because she knew that it was not easy to kill the 2 captains with the help of a secret mobile force, and it was even more difficult to stop them. Luokan, then let's go. Go. The members of the surrounding secret mobile units suddenly became more confident. If a captain can't defeat them, can I still defeat you as an acting captain? Everyone rushed forward, and the short knife in their hands stabbed forward, making the space around Luokan a watertight place, and Luokan's body crawled, full of people. What? How is this possible? All the tips of the knives are firmly blocked from the dusty skin. Whether it is an ordinary knife, an extremely sharp knife, a poisonous knife or a knife with various attributes, all of them lose their power. Is it a materialized Reiatsu? Luokan covered his spiritual pressure on the outside of the epidermis, forming a layer of skin that only captain-level attacks could penetrate. Get out of here. Luokan's spiritual pressure hit, and all the bamboos in the bamboo forest were cut off. Everyone except the Broken Bees were knocked flying, lying on the ground, either in a coma or moaning, and had lost the battle ability. In the bamboo forest, an open space with a diameter of 100 meters was formed, which just happened to contain all the fallen dust and Broken Bees. There was no way to hide, and the Broken Bees could only attack. Broken Bees are fast. Among the captains of the Gote 13th team, he is one of the best, otherwise he would not be the captain of the secret mobile unit. But even if Luokan couldn't keep up with his eyes, Raya could accurately capture it, and the several attacks by Shubi were all in vain. Try this trick. 2 hits will kill you, Bumblebee. Due to the beginning of the solution, the speed of the Broken Bee has risen by a level again, and it is constantly circling around the falling dust while rapidly approaching. Don't underestimate my speed. Luo Chen's Zanpakudo and Shattering Bee's needles can be said to be needle-pointed against maiming, and they burst out with extremely strong spiritual pressure. Neither were affected, which was beyond Luo Chen's expectations. I thought your slender body couldn't withstand too much impact. But your attack is also too light to hurt me. So what's the matter? Shattering B's spirit pressure surged, surrounding Luokan to form dozens of clones. Luo Chen was a little surprised, and said with a smile, "Oh, if you didn't remind me, I'd have forgotten about it." Shadow Clone Technique. Although Luokan's clones were not as many as Broken B's, they were quite numerous. This time, it was Broken B's turn to be surprised. Chapter 1297. Clone. The spirit skeleton Broken Bee was taken aback. She didn't expect Luokan to do this move, but she could see that the spiritual pressure of Luokan's clones was not as strong as that of the main body, so it was possible to judge which one was the main body. The avatar of Luokan and the avatar of the corpse Broken Bee fought together. It's not worth mentioning, can such a avatar defeat me? Slash. The slash of the falling dust clone is not as powerful as it used to be, but it is still possible to contain it. The cooperation between many conferred gods can at least ensure that a battle line will be formed in a short period of time and will not be defeated. The clones of the corpse Broken Bees carry out the impact again and again, but at most 1 or 2 clones are killed, and they will also be hurt. The surrounding bamboo forest was cut in half by the spiritual pressure of this group of people. This big melee only lasted for a short time. I didn't want to defeat you, I just need to restrain your movements. Luo Chen didn't want to rely on these clones to fight and defeat the corpse Broken Bees, because these clones were just making up the numbers. Until now, the corpse Broken Bee did not notice. In fact, Luokan had already separated all the avatars of the corpse Broken Bee in the clone battle, and now Luokan's clone formed a circle, surrounding the body of the spirit skeleton Broken Bee. In the middle. No wonder there is a sense of disobedience. Your avatars were not in a circle just to protect the main body. Was it me that was originally the target? Broken Spirit Skeleton said with a wry smile. Downwind. The avatars of Luokan surrounded the Broken Bees and raised their knives. It had already become a dead end, and there was no way to break it. Just capture it. But Broby was not a person who would surrender in battle. She smiled slightly, released the other clones, and said, "Did you think that the members of the mobile secret force are only capable of assassination? That's naive." Boom. The body of the Broken Bee was wrapped in pure white spiritual pressure, and the spiritual pressure rushed out, and these slightly weak clones were already unstable. Bang bang bang. The spirit skeleton Broken Bee used his fists and kung fu in the siege, and combined with his excellent body technique, he was stunned to kill the general and came out without being injured at all. Luokan also released his clone, thinking that if the situation continued like this, he would just be wasting the spiritual pressure in vain. I admit, I underestimated you. For the first time, Luo Chen reflected on the fact that he underestimated others, because he could feel that he was becoming more and more invincible, so he relaxed in the battle. A wake-up call to himself. Cheng Cheng looked directly at the corpse Broken Bee in front of him. His breath was pressing. Is it a combination of ghost and close combat fighting methods 500? That's right, if you want to become a member of the mobile team, you must be tested in close combat, because we don't know who we want to assassinate, and we also need to ensure that we can get out safely. Said Soul Skeleton Broken Bee proudly. She is like a cheetah who has spotted its prey. No more nonsense, but takes killing the dust as her only goal now. Due to the blessing of the spiritual pressure, the body of the Broken Bee was swaying wildly in the bamboo forest, and Luo Chen was unable to capture his movement trajectory. The spiritual pressure scan was also disturbed by the huge amount of spiritual pressure. Chapter 1298. Successful. The corpse Broken Bee approached from behind Luokan. Second hit will kill. Kai. The spikes on Broken Bee's hand pierced into the back of Luokan's upper body, forming a ball on his back, like a blooming flower. Cough. It really hurts, but I caught you. Luokan never does anything he is not sure about, so this time he took the initiative to give blood, and then took this opportunity to grab the arm of the corpse Broken Bee. The spirit skeleton Broken Bee couldn't break free, but Luo Chen's Zanpakuto had already slashed. This is the last attack, you don't have a chance. Speaking of which, the scorpion bee stabbed the sharp thorn in its hand into Luoken's wound again. This is the first attack of the scorpion bee, and it will kill with 2 hits. XXX. Look at me. Luo Chen didn't panic at all. Captain Broken Bee, you mustn't have forgotten, this move of yours won't work for those whose spiritual pressure is far superior to you. No effect. Because Luoken's spiritual pressure level has long exceeded the captain's level, Broken Bee's moves have been exhausted, cut tilde. Boom. The Broken Bee was sent flying, but Luoken felt that the hand was not right, so he narrowed his glasses and observed the materialized spiritual pressure. It really is the captain level with excellent physical skills. Luoken now feels that the soul skeleton Broken Bee is the most difficult enemy he has fought so far, because his whole cards have never been used up at one time, and he has been hiding his true strength, which is very terrifying. Up to now, only Niyuli has felt this way for Luoken. In fact, if others were to evaluate Luoken, it would be the same feeling. Luoken himself didn't notice it, and he was also the master of the inexhaustible trump card. Although this goes against my restraint, this is undoubtedly my strongest trick. Fallen Dust, take it. 1 hit will kill you. Sparrow Bee Thunder Bullwhip. Lingshan Crusher got up and wiped the blood from the corners of her mouth. She planned to use this move in Luoken whether it is a victory or a defeat. After this blow, the Reiatsu and physical strength of Broken Bee will be overdrawn. The weapon Broken Bee brought out is familiar to Luo Chen. This is the move that Broken Bee used to use in the last duel with Balagang among the 10 blades. Is it the solution? Then I'll come to. Luoken also opened the solution. After all, Luoken had seen the power of this move with his own eyes. It was like a little sun, which should not be underestimated. The spiritual pressure on both sides suddenly rose, and the surrounding bamboo forests were completely swept, broken, and even uprooted with the ground. Sweat dripped down their cheeks. It's too late to say, but the attack of the corpse bee has already been launched. Fast as thunder, fierce as fire. The spiritual pressure that penetrated the air and falling dust in an instant was not blocked in the slightest, as if there was nothing in between. Diaresis his. Luoken took a breath, never expecting to face such a huge amount of pressure in front of this attack that was like a punishment from heaven. But the surprise returned to the surprise, the sigh returned to the sigh. Luo Chen didn't think that he would lose in this Lee's. Tailed Beast Jade Slash. 9 tails. Click. The missile exploded when it came into contact with Luoken's blade. Luoken completely covered his spiritual pressure on the blade and resisted it in front of him. A safe triangle was formed in Luoken's slashing attack. Inside, the explosion was directly split in half. Outside of this, there was a hell that was even hotter than Yamamoto's Fire City. Chapter 1299. Light and heat appeared at the same time, flames and explosions erupted at the same time, and none of the attacks within a radius of hundreds of meters were spared. It was simply a map cannon. Of course, it's not just Luoken. The corpse Broken Bee is also within her attack range. She has the courage to break the boat and sink the boat, but Luoken and the captain are no longer in the same dimension. If you are prepared to deal with this level of attack, really can't hurt itself. The flames dissipated, the explosion subsided, and everything fell silent. A deep pit appeared where the falling dust was, and the ground was full of burn marks. Luoken discovered the body of the skeleton Broken Bee. The whole body was burnt. Although there was still a trace of consciousness, it would soon disappear due to the serious injury. On the other hand, although Toshiro was in a hard fight, the captain's strength was still there. Under the attack of the spirit skeleton young Moritao, he was still strong at 500. Although he was not injured in the slightest, the spirit skeleton young Moritao couldn't beat him. Toshiro was completely defeated. Xiao Bai, I'm sorry, although I am not the original species, but I have to defeat you. The spirit skeleton young Moritao attacked while wiping tears, because Xiao Bai was kidnapped by his emotions, so he couldn't kill him for a long time. Kai, Toshiro's death tyrant was cut open again, and blood flowed out. Toshiro's body became more and more serious, but the attack of the spirit skeleton young Moritao did not stop. Death. Although her eyes were cold, there was still a trace of guilt at the end, and Toshiro gave up resistance. Boom! Yi kicked the spirit skeleton young Sendao into the air. Due to her severe injuries, she turned into a cloud of smoke and dissipated. It has to be said that the former captain is still the former captain, and her strength has not diminished. Go find Inaba. I still have things to do. Yaiki left after leaving these words. Toshiro gritted his teeth, knowing that Yaiki didn't say much, and he should know what he should change. After Yi left, he soon met Luo Chen who came. It's so nice of you to come. The child of Sufeng is trapped. Come with me to save her. Broken B. Oh, you're talking about the main body. Luo Chen didn't react for a while. I said that Inaba couldn't even copy the secret mobilization troop, so it is. Although Luoken had already wiped out most of the secret mobilization troops just now, but being able to rescue the broken bees can also be a major force, and Luoken followed Yi. Unlike Toshiro's side, Kuchiki Byakuya and the skeleton Kuchiki Byakuya only met a few times, and the winner has already been decided, because Kuchiki Byakuya's heart is very firm. You're right, there can only be one owner of the Kuchiki family, and that person must be me. You lose. Kuchiki Byakuya put away the solution. No need to fight anymore, the skeleton has dissipated. At the same time, in the center of the spiritual garden, Captain Yamamoto was besieged by Kiraku Chunsui, Yukataki Shuru and Uno Hanaritsu, but he did not lose for a long time. Go to hell with this old man. Captain Yamamoto's Zanpakuto stabbed to the ground, activating the formation attack, enclosing all four of them in raging flames, and a pillar of fire shot up into the sky. At this time, Inaba Shadow Wolf was in charge of the overall situation in the Technical Management Bureau. Although this situation is beyond his expectations, he is not panic at all. It's okay, it's still in my plan. Chapter 1300. I found you. You are Inaba, right? Zaragi Kenpachi broke through the wall of the Technical Bureau and walked towards Inaba, with Muzuojin following behind. Toshiro just arrived at this time, and Inaba said with a smile, the three captains, stay safe, but although you came, at least you are already scarred. It's more than enough to beat you, but it's only the 7th seat. Is he a third-rate character in the team? Zaragi Kenpachi pointed at him with a knife. I'm enough. Inaba knew that the captain in front of him was definitely a fighting maniac in the Gote 13 team, so he did not underestimate the enemy, and took out his weapon, which was a two-edged single-edged sword. Drink. Zaragi Kenpachi has already rushed up. Toshiro also rushed up this time. I'm sorry, Inaba is not easy, this time I only don't want you to fight alone. As you like. 2 people, one left and one right, attacked Inaba, but Inaba smiled, and there was a slight fluctuation in the space. Stop. As soon as he finished speaking, the entrance to Zanji appeared in front of Zengi Kenpachi. If it was a little later, he would plunge into it. If it was normal, it would be fine. What a danger. Is it manipulating space? Although my Zanpakuto is only capable of manipulating space, neither of you 2 captains will necessarily be able to defeat me. Then how many more? The sound of falling dust came from above, and the glass shattered in response. What? Inaba sensed the sudden presence of several captain-level Reiatsu around him, and they were getting closer and closer. His perception was correct. In addition to Luo Chen, Yaiki and Kuchiki Byakuya had already arrived, and Broken Bee's body had also arrived at the scene. You guy, you actually locked me up first. Broken Bee said angrily, it really has a plan. Did you use my mobile secret troops? Fortunately, I have Luoken's help, otherwise I will have to delay for a while. Inaba, you first controlled Broken Bee to be able to control a large number of troops, right? However, now your plan has failed. Now there are several captains here, so I don't need to tell you. Luoken fell from the sky, and everyone surrounded Inaba in the center of the hall. He was now unable to escape. The last time he received this treatment was Aizen. At this time, Inaba should have exhausted all plans, and only surrendered. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot seeking flowers katakana middle dot 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 katakana middle dot. But what everyone didn't expect was that Inaba laughed when he saw this situation. Ha ha ha, do you really think the winning ticket is in your hands? Go together. 0-0. The captains rushed up, but Inaba was not in a hurry. Waves of spiritual pressure fluctuations were generated in the space, and the attack of Kenpachi Zaraki and Tushiro was formed again in the space just now. Is this a copy? Everyone was forced to retreat, because Inaba can make these attacks appear anywhere, anytime, and it is simply impossible to guard against, especially the copied Zanaki Kenpachi's / the captains can only take it hard. No, Inaba shook his head, it's the memory and restoration of space. My Zanpakuto can remember space, and attacks in space are no exception, and it can also restore space, so the attacks in that space will also be reproduced. I have already remembered your attacks just now. 100 million.